Chapter 321. Duan coughed and said, "Not only have outsiders infiltrated our villa, but even Impermanence Hall has been compromised, and you all know nothing." With a swoosh, 3 individuals neatly knelt on the ground, their expressions increasingly fearful. "Manor Master, please forgive us," the leading man in black spoke in panic. Because they were separated by a river, their view of Duan wasn't particularly clear, but they still dared not take a close look. First, the Manor Master himself was terrifying and not to be looked at directly, and second, the new zombie he had raised was very scary. As soon as you lifted your head, it seemed to glare at you with green eyes, as if it wanted to bite you. Manor Master feeding unhelpful subordinates to the zombies was not a very secret matter anymore. So the 3 dared not look any further. "Summon all the assassins within the villa. I have an important matter to announce," Duan said with a suppressed voice. "You'd have to say." His voice, muffled by the silver mask, sounded quite diabolically imposing, with a true sense of oppression. Alas, even as a young hero, one still has to play the role of an evil demon, which is not an easy task. "Yes, but this is somewhat against the rules." The leading man in black appeared somewhat troubled. In Netherworld Mountain Villa, gathering manpower always proceeded level by level. It was rare to directly summon all assassins. This was a rule established by the first Manor Master, and successive Manor Masters rarely defied it. In the next instant, a flash of silver light and a loud slap echoed. The leading man in black spun around like a top, crashing to the ground, his face now askew. Duan sternly said, "What? Do my words no longer hold sway? Rules? Are the rules of this villa also restricting me? No, dare not. I will handle it immediately." Moments later, the 3 men had already run out. Soon, a chorus of bird calls rang throughout the villa, big and small birds chirping incessantly, as if at a tea party. Evidently, Netherworld Mountain Villa was mobilizing its assassins. Duan couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief. He had been quite worried about blowing his cover while playing the role of the Manor Master, especially when the man in black mentioned the rules. Morong brothers' slap skills indeed proved effective. A single slap had brought compliance. The initially serene woods gradually saw people arriving. Such a large-scale gathering of assassins was rare, and everyone showed a mix of tense and puzzled emotions. Being assassins, a profession thriving in the shadows, secrecy was preferred and gathering together was rare. Some of the villa's assassins came from wealthy and powerful families, inherently shy, blushing and nervous at the sight of strangers, yet fond of killing, and hence they became assassins. Some were motivated by their unattractive appearances and inherent insecurities, opting for a promising career that required minimal social interactions. So, even at villa gatherings, most wore masks. After learning of the enemy's infiltration, the crowd displayed a look of sudden realization. It must be said, the assassins of Netherworld Mountain Villa were quite efficient. In no more than the time it takes 2 incense sticks to burn, almost all had arrived. The riverbank was already filled with about 200 people. The leading man in black, with a crooked face, respectfully said, "Back to the Manor Master, 19 silver-ranked assassins, 42 copper-ranked, and 113 iron-ranked assassins have all arrived." There were fewer people than Duan had anticipated, especially since there were no gold-ranked assassins in the villa. Was it that scarce? But this was also understandable. Assassins were either killing or on their way to kill. The ones staying within the villa wouldn't be many. Duan nodded, picking up a shattered corpse from the ground, and said, "2 experts from the White Sox sect disguised as villa assassins, aiming to assassinate me, have been killed by me. Manor Master is mighty." The crooked-faced man in black flattered first. The crowd quickly joined in. Assassins, unfamiliar with and not fond of it, yet flattery towards the Manor Master was obligatory. That previous old man at Fudu Hall, looking at the human skin mask, exclaimed, "It's him! He just slapped me recently. He was a spy." Everyone was quite surprised. They had always kept to their own with the White Sox sect, yet this time they dared to attempt an assassination against the Manor Master of Netherworld Mountain Villa. However, their surprise was limited, as being assassins, there was hardly anyone they hadn't killed. Over the years, many had attempted to infiltrate and kill them, yet few had the audacity to strike directly at the Manor Master. White Sox sect dares to oppose my Netherworld mountain villa. We must retaliate. Listen up, assassins. An additional task is now assigned. Take out the White Sox sect. The bounty is doubled as per usual, quadrupled for experts. With this, the group of assassins stirred with excitement. The White Sox sect, a formidable force when grouped, was not easy to kill. Taking down one or two could easily lead to retaliation if their peers discovered it. And it's even harder to find a master. But that is double, even quadruple the bounty. That's so much divine rouge to consume. The reason why Netherworld Mountain Villa can control so many assassins and make them follow blindly is largely due to the effects of this divine rouge. It's a very peculiar rouge-like substance. Once one consumes it, they will feel pleasure and almost floating to the heavens, even improving the efficiency of killing. Over time, assassins doing tasks gradually became dependent on it. Even when not on tasks, they think of it to lift their spirits, and without it, they feel restless as if monkeys are scratching all over their body. But it's said that this divine rouge is tough to produce. Each time the villa only provides the basic mix, and if you want more, you have to spend silver or task points to buy. Many assassins spend almost all the silver they earned on tasks right back to the villa. A classic case of easy come, easy go, don't expect to bring half a piece back home. This is why these assassins are bold and audacious. As long as the bounty is right, even the Martial Arts Alliance hierarch must watch out. There is no way out, they can't break free. Duan Yun had felt many cold shivers from those two female assassins before. These fragmented memories, though broken, allowed him to glimpse how Netherworld Mountain Villa operated. Even though most of these assassins are socially awkward, upon hearing this bounty, they all got excited. Some are already discussing forming teams to take on the White Sox sect. Even though assassins are reclusive, cooperation becomes essential when facing formidable enemies. Before long, the entire forest became bustling. All right, Silver Badge assassins stay. The rest of you leave. Quickly, there were only 19 Silver Badge assassins left in the forest. Duan Yun looked at them, noticing that all of these people were very nervous. This scene reminded Duan Yun of himself waiting for a teacher's scolding in the office in his past life. Only now, the roles were reversed. He was the class teacher, and these assassins like students. It's worth mentioning, this feeling was quite agreeable. These 19 Silver Badge assassins were the elite that remained in the villa. He needed to ensure that these 19 were utterly loyal, without any hidden agendas, otherwise his disguise plan might fail. So, Duan Yun intended to make them shiver, and if he found any doubters, he would eliminate them, or forcefully instill heroic spirit to eradicate the evil deviants. However, there was a problem with his heroic spirit. Those infused often uncontrollably shout, "I want to be a hero," which could easily expose them. Thus, it's best to eliminate those with issues. At this moment, Duan Yun scanned around and stated, "You are the backbone of the villa. I need to test your mettle." Then, he looked towards a female assassin wrapped in black and said, "You go first." Morong's face, already corpse-like, turned even greener. Among this batch of assassins, she was the only woman, and reasonably attractive. He quite fancied her, couldn't help feeling tempted. Unexpectedly, old demon Duan, disregarding humanity, made this beautiful assassin go first. At this moment, Duan Yun had already turned and walked deeper into the forest. The female assassin was nervous, but had no choice but to follow. Then, suddenly, a voice emerged from the ground. "Qian, run. That's old demon Duan. The Manor Master has been killed." At the sound, the 19 Silver Badge assassins were momentarily stunned. Then chills ran down their spines. Because the person emerging from the fallen leaves behind them was Qian's Taoist couple, an exceptionally skilled assassin in hiding and stealth who loved spectacles. He must have been here a long while, likely witnessing everything. It was then people realized, this Manor Master indeed seemed somewhat different from before. "Run!" Someone shouted, and the 19 silver badge assassins broke into a scramble, tumbling and crawling. Duan Yun realized that his carefully planned deeds had been spoiled by a mouse this way, and was instantly inflamed, his whole body heating up. Damn it! Stop right there. Not listening to the Manor Master, huh? I am really the Manor Master. As he spoke, his legs blurred into shadows, a face twisted in rage chasing after them. At this, the fleeing silver badge assassins were terrified, their faces distorted with fear, running even faster. Help! Old Demon Duan is out for blood. Chapter 322. What? A fallen woman who prefers death over being saved. The silver-ranked assassins were scared stiff, running as fast as they could. But no matter how fast they ran, could they outpace Duan Yun? Not to mention old Demon Duan, even the zombie Murong brothers were almost flying. The female is mine. The female is mine, the Murong brothers said as they rushed towards the female assassin. Turning her head, the female assassin saw a zombie, with green hair fluttering towards her, and her soul nearly flew away. This was even scarier than old Demon Duan. At this moment, she already thought of someone. The only one who could be beside old Demon Duan with green hair fluttering had to be the Green Blade Demon. When the Murong brothers saw the female assassin, their eyes gleamed, and they licked their swollen lips, feeling a surge of power throughout their bodies. Murong is here to rescue you. In her panic, the female assassin stumbled over some vines on the ground and fell. It's over. The footsteps of the Green Blade Demon were already behind her. Even without looking back, she could imagine his hideous, perverted face. Her hand was already on a hidden weapon, ready to fight to the death. Even if she were to die, she would not let this old demon succeed. At that moment, a stream of poison needles shot out first, heading straight for the face of the Green Blade Demon. Huang! The one who shot these needles was her lover. Huang! It was he who had reminded her earlier, otherwise she might have already been refined by old Demon Duan. The Murong brother, upon seeing the poisoned needles coming, flicked his green moon saber, and the needles scattered across the ground. But as he pursued the female assassin again, he saw her and a male assassin running hand in hand, speeding away. Their movement technique was very clever, holding hands while their feet pushed against each other, resulting in a swift escape. In the eyes of the Murong brothers, they were like two butterflies flitting through the flowers. Let go of her, she's mine. The Murong brothers' eyes turned green as he chased madly again. A gold-ranked assassin might struggle and resist encountering an old demon like Murong brother, even successfully ambushing him, but the silver-ranked assassins clearly couldn't. Since hearing the name of old Demon Duan, they had chosen to flee, without any will to fight. The assassin couple ran fast. They were already proficient in their movement techniques, but unfortunately, the gap in strength was too great. Murong, with his powerful true chi and his desire for the female assassin, kept running on foot, continually closing in on the two escaping butterflies. The two assassins pushed against each other fiercely, nearing their physical limit. The man's legs were about to cramp. Yet, to their despair, the Green Blade Demon was still relentlessly closing in on them, like a soul-reaping specter. Why won't he leave us alone? We're just assassins killing people, the woman said in panic as she pushed. Who knows? All demons are lunatics. Definitely do not get caught by him. The trees around them flew by rapidly, startling the birds in the forest. At that time, a cliff appeared in front of them. Jump! You jump! I jump! Seeing the green-haired old demon chasing after them, they shared a deep look and, gritting their teeth, chose to jump off the cliff. When the Murong brother charged up, he saw the scene of the couple jumping off the cliff together. What? You'd rather die than be transformed by me, Murong? No way, even if you die, I must find you. Murong brother didn't waste a second and quickly started climbing down the cliff, using his hands and feet together like a nimble gecko. Indeed, the person he had been chasing for so long, whose sight had captured his heart at first glance. Even if she was a corpse, he needed to take another look, What if she was still alive? Thinking of this possibility, Murong brother climbed even faster. The cliff was quite high. Murong brother was soon engulfed in the mist of the cliff, and he didn't reach the bottom for a while. With a thud, after frantically climbing a distance, and feeling the soreness in both hands, Murong brother finally stepped on solid ground. It was like a swamp of wet mud. A martial arts expert falling in such a place could possibly survive. It was also one of the reasons why the pair of Silver Badge assassins jumped so decisively earlier. Because they knew the terrain below. Maybe the female assassin is still alive, and she could be reformed. Thinking of this possibility, Murong brother hurriedly started searching with wide eyes. By now it was getting light, and the dawn illuminated the surroundings considerably. But there was a thin mist at the bottom of the cliff, and he had to search more diligently. These two people falling down must have created a sizable crater. He just needed to follow the traces. He could use his heroic spirit to reform her, persuading her to turn over a new leaf. But just after running 100 steps or so, Murong brother suddenly stood frozen, his eyes moistened and red. The female assassin remained impaled there. Her body had been pierced by a standing broken tree trunk. Her head had also hit a large stone, her face covered in blood. The ground here was all wet mud. This tree and stone could even be considered rare, but who would have thought? Murong brother ran over, gazing at the female assassin's body whose eyes were wide open even in death, crying out, Why didn't you want to meet me even in death?" Not far in the wet mud, the male assassin was lurking, watching this scene, tears streaming down his face. What is called a parting between life and death? How can one not even dare to claim the body of a loved one? And seriously, why are you, Green Blade Demon, crying and making nonsensical scenes, making it seem like Qian was your deceased wife? She's mine. Murong brother stood next to the female assassin's body, murmuring, "I didn't expect you would rather jump off a cliff and kill yourself than experience my heroic spirit. Feel my desire to save you, a girl who strayed." Suddenly, Murong brother looked towards a certain place, then said, "But the man who caused your death is still here. Let him experience my intentions for you. After he dies, he can convey my feelings to you in the netherworld." Thinking of this, Murong brother's eyes gleamed. That spot was exactly where the male assassin was hiding. He must have been too distraught and carelessly surfaced a bit in the mud, making a slight noise, which unfortunately caught the attention of Green Blade Demon. In the eyes of the male assassin, Murong brother, with gleaming eyes, seemed like a demon out to claim his life. I knew it. The name of this mountain villa was ominous. Realizing this, the male assassin, grieving for his Taoist couple, promptly turned to run. But by then, Murong brother had already charged forward filled with a heroic spirit. "Stop!
No.
Lunatic!" The male assassin did not climb out of the mud. Instead, he dived deeper into the mud like an earthworm, not saying a word. Only relying on his unique escape technique could he evade the chasing fangs of Green Blade Demon. But just as he had submerged himself a distance, he couldn't help but feel a chill down his spine as if facing a dire calamity. He felt the movement of the wet mud behind him. Green Blade Demon was pursuing. What was more frightening was that, in this wet, muddy environment, where even speaking or opening one's mouth was difficult, he seemed to hear the terrifying and twisted voices of Green Blade Demon. He was seemingly saying, "Stop! Properly experience my intentions for her." Chapter 323. Hero, spare my life. 19 Silver Badge assassins, apart from the couple chased by Green Blade Demon. The rest scattered in all directions. They deeply knew, to save their lives from the hands of living Yama, old Demon Duan, the only way was to run individually, each in a different direction. One Silver Badge assassin just jumped into the river, when suddenly, a sword chi like moonlight directly cleaved the water in half, and his body too was split into two parts. An assassin was frantically running along the edge of a cliff. She appeared to be a man, but was actually a woman. Within this netherworld mountain villa, she hardly had any friends. Hence, even fewer knew her true gender. The woman turned her head back, her eyes filled with despair. Suddenly, old Demon Duan's legs blurred into shadows. He was about to catch up to her in the blink of an eye. She was about to die. Likely very few people knew her gender. Truth be told, her background wasn't destitute. She could even be considered a lady of a reputable family, yet due to her androgynous appearance, she felt tremendously inferior. She came to Netherworld Mountain Villa to become an assassin. One reason was to be alone. Another reason was because Mountain Villa had a cultivation method to beautify herself. If she successfully cultivated, perhaps she would be able to live without feeling self-conscious. She just wanted to be beautiful. What was wrong with that? It was just about killing some people. Those who were paid to be assassinated. Could they be entirely blameless? But who would think, before she even could become beautiful, she was about to die? At that moment, a gust of wind passed, and old Demon Duan was already running shoulder to shoulder with her. Duan, Mr. Duan, young hero Duan. The female assassin's voice trembled. A sword chi pierced through her chest, and her whole body slanted, collapsing to the ground. It was this address, young hero Duan, that allowed her to preserve her whole corpse. After continuously killing 4 people, Duan Yun really found it hard to locate the scattered assassins. Especially since there must be those purposely stirring the waters to gain time to escape from his righteous hands. Some bronze and iron badge assassins also got the news and started fleeing. That is to say, his plans to become the Manor Master had nearly failed. These assassins were of no further use. Assassins who couldn't be arranged by him to carry out justice were of no value, and could only be killed off. Just because someone shouted Old Demon Duan. His plan of extraordinary wisdom was ruined, filling young hero Duan with fury. No, the tarnished name of Old Demon Duan was too damaging. He still had to launch a new alias and play the card of the young hero. In any case, the alias Young Hero Duan Lang was not working anymore. It was time to start anew. It could only be said that after aliases like Murong Fu, Duan Lang, Su Xian, young hero Duan had to adopt a new name. However, the most important thing at the moment was to annihilate this mountain villa. Suddenly, Duan Yun thought of a place and dashed towards it like lightning. Riverbank, dock, 2 coffins. The old lady in charge of receiving and sending off the coffins was sweating profusely. So many people suddenly needing to leave, she was overwhelmed. Seeing her dilly-dallying, 2 silver badge assassins quickly helped drag the coffins over. Without a word, they dove right in. The assassins who ran here, wanting to escape, couldn't wait any longer and also swiftly climbed in. The 2 coffins were jostled and shaken in the water, bobbing up and down, like a rocking bed. Hey, take turns. Take turns, my foot. Close the coffin. We're in a hurry for a mission. What they meant by in a hurry for a mission was actually rushing to flee from there to escape the pursuit of Old Demon Duan. The Manor Master was killed. Were these minions not running to wait for death? The old lady had never seen so many silver badge assassins so urgently going for a mission before, but she just did her job and closed the coffins. From the outside, at least 4 people were hiding in one coffin. Due to the lack of space, some had already used bone shrinking skills, but it was still extremely tight. They were stacked on top of one another, resembling some kind of multi-limbed monster. What can you do about being squished? Just poke the one above and call it even. For a moment, a group of men piling on top of each other. Luckily, the coffin lids were eventually sealed, and in the darkness, they were stacked together, feeling an unusual sense of security for the first time. As long as they could escape, their chances of survival would greatly increase. Maybe because there were too many people, the coffin was deep in the water and didn't drift fast. But the people inside the coffin couldn't feel these. They felt like a light boat had already crossed myriad mountains. Just then, a tap sound was heard. The coffin lids suddenly moved. The stacked assassins suddenly turned pale and trembled all over. So you all are here. A voice floated in through the crack of the coffin lid, making everyone's heart almost leap out. Old Demon Duan. They wanted to struggle and escape, but tangled and piled atop one another. And with the limited space in the coffin, they couldn't move at all. This movement even elicited soul-wrenching screams from some. The next moment, the coffin lid was lifted, revealing Duan Yun's handsome face. His face was indeed handsome, even bearing a slight smile, but seen through the opening of the coffin, it appeared horrific. Ah! 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 Old demon Duan! The assassins began to scream, some even urinating. With a snap, the screaming abruptly ceased. With just one sword, 4 silver-plated assassins were instantly killed. Their heads, because of their close clustering, were skewered together by a golden sword, resembling sugar-coated haws. Duan Yun pulled out the golden sword and slowly exhaled, knowing he had come to the right place. The killers gathered together, making it easier to kill them. Duan Yun gently leaped onto another coffin. Thus, the coffin filled with bodies flowed downwards. This coffin was even more cramped than the last. The inhabitants thought they had escaped a multitude of dangers, but in the old lady's eyes, they were about to die. Duan Yun stepped on the coffin, and it remained motionless on the water.
Yo!
There's another one. The moment he opened the coffin, Duan Yun couldn't help but exclaim as he saw the overlapping scene inside. Ah! Ah! Old demon Duan! Familiar screaming began, then abruptly ended, and familiar heads were skewered just like sugar-coated haws. In a short time, 9 silver-plated assassins who thought they'd escaped death had truly ascended to heaven. They did not go peacefully. The old lady, upon seeing this scene, turned pale and trembled. At this moment, others ran here, seeking to leave. These people did not recognize Duan Yun. The man leading them even pushed Duan Yun aside and frantically yelled, "Quick! Place the coffin. We need to get out." Duan Yun could not help but ask, "Gentlemen, why are you in such a rush to leave?" The man angrily said, "You fool! Old demon Duan has infiltrated. Even the manor master has been murdered. Should we not run before old demon Duan murders and assaults us too? Old lady you! Quickly!" Old lady you looked at Duan Yun, too frightened to move. The assassins couldn't help wanting to lash out, but seeing old lady Yu's reaction, they turned to look at Duan Yun. One nervous assassin carrying a bundle said, "This one looks somewhat unfamiliar." Duan Yun smiled and said, "I am Duan Yun. Old demon Duan. Old demon Duan. Old demon Duan." Some were horrified, screaming aloud. As soon as the words ended, several streams of white sword chi shot out, like white rainbows, instantly piercing through the foreheads of those who just screamed "Old demon Duan," killing them on the spot. The remaining 4 were scared out of their wits. 2 of them ran, only to see a crescent-like sword chi sweep by, and with their own eyes watched as their lower bodies continued to run forward, while their upper bodies fell to the ground. Before they died, they kept watching their lower bodies rushing forward, unable to let go. The departure of the lower bodies, was it the pursuit of the wind, or the lack of retention by the upper body? The last 2 assassins thumped to their knees and wailed at Duan Yun, "Hero, please spare our lives." Hearing the words, "Hero," Duan Yun's expression softened, and he instantly placed his hands on their heads. After about 10 breaths, the 2 assassins suddenly opened their eyes, staring blankly, and said, "I want to be a hero. To be a hero, you must lead the way. What places here are easy to hide in?" Duan Yun said, "I know. I'll show you right now." The male assassin on the left raised his left hand, his face filled with excitement. Afterwards, the old lady watched the 2 assassins shouting, "I want to be a hero," as they headed towards Mountain Villa, looking exactly like living Yamadev claiming lives. Chapter 324, Huang Mountain, the insurmountable peak for old demon Duan. For 3 consecutive days, the Netherworld Mountain Villa had become akin to purgatory, without light from the sun or moon. This place, once considered hell for outsiders due to its fearsome assassins and traps, had become the very hell for these assassins themselves. Following the bloody purge by old demon Duan and Green Blade Demon, sporadic cries of, "I want to be a hero," would echo within the Netherworld Mountain Villa, terrifying the hiding assassins even more than death warrants. because it signified that their hiding spots were likely exposed by these guides. Anyone possessed by old demon Duan's Dao heart demon seed would become a hero who betrayed their own companions. No one could grasp the dreadful pressure faced by the assassins hidden within the villa, nor could anyone understand the immense fear and emotional trauma induced by the repeated cries of, "I want to be a hero." In short, the Netherworld Mountain Villa, haunted by the phrase, "I want to be a hero," had become the most terrifying place in the world. 3 days later, Duan Yun and the Murong brothers ceased their actions. Most of those who should be sent off had been dispatched on their way, and those who wanted to be heroes, deliriously shouting, had been sent off to pursue their dreams. They had barely completed the extermination of the Netherworld Mountain Villa. It must be said, this act of performing heroic deeds and reaping treasures felt incredibly satisfying. Just in the Twisted Manor Master's study alone, they had found 9 pearls the size of dragon eyes and some ancient paintings and calligraphy. The Murong brothers, after all, were the scions of a prominent family, and had considerable appreciation and fondness for such artworks. The sight of the autumn maples with horsemen painting made them laugh uncontrollably. Seeing this, Duan Yun couldn't help but comment sarcastically, "Just stash away what you like stealthily. No need to laugh like that. You're looking like a looting demon, nothing like a young hero should." Upon hearing this, the Murong brothers immediately resumed a more young hero-like demeanor. But they were equally ecstatic when they got their hands on those dragon-eye pearls, excitedly saying, "Grinding these pearls into powder for consumption can preserve one's beauty. I'll surely become even more handsome. A few of these pearls would make fine betrothal gifts when I meet the love of my life." Despite constantly being dealt emotional blows, the Murong brothers never gave up on love. Initially, out of love, he wanted to starve himself to death. Now, also for love, he had grown stronger. He understood that although unrequited love has led to endless despair throughout history, he couldn't halt his longing for beauty and affection. It was in a secret chamber behind this study that Duan Yun and the Murong brothers learned some of the silver-faced Taoist and Manor Master's secrets. The chamber was filled with meridian maps and chunks of flesh stored in an ice cellar. Duan Yun could guess that this flesh likely belonged to the silver-faced Taoist himself. He was harvesting his own flesh and stuffing it with the corpse kings, blending it perfectly with the use of cultivation techniques. The reason why these harvested flesh pieces were stored in an ice cellar was probably due to the Taoist's reluctance to part with them. After all, it was his own flesh, similar to how many eunuchs would preserve their severed parts in alcohol, a storage of sentimentality. Yet, these resected tissues were not random. The meridian maps made it clear that they corresponded with different acupoints. Perhaps once all the acupoints in the meridian map were replaced and fused with the corpse king's flesh, this man would have perfected his evil skill. Unfortunately, he never reached completion and thus perished. It must be said, the Netherworld Mountain Villa's Manor Master was a top-notch expert, at least a few leagues above the Murong brothers. Fortuitously, if a demon rises 1 foot, a hero rises 10. Young hero Duan was just that little bit better than him. Regarding those wooden stumps with open mouths, they had once tried to cut into them, only to find they hid people inside. People both terrifying and pitiable. The sight was truly horrifying. These people were completely destroyed physically, squashed inside like meat worms, having also lost all reasoning, endlessly reciting scriptures. Duan Yun tried to connect with them using the Biming divine skill, but all he could feel was pain. Therefore, the two of them set fire to Impermanence Hall. The blaze got out of control very quickly, burning down half of the mountain. For a time, the fire that consumed Netherworld burned fiercely, reddening even the sky. Netherworld Mountain Villa, with its long history and countless lives taken, was thus reduced to ashes. Watching the villa burn to ruins, Duan Yun and the Murong brothers left with great satisfaction. That old crone watched as these two grim reapers were sent to their coffins, watching their departure. Before they left, she respectfully said, "Young heroes, please tread slowly." She almost blurted out, "Feel free to visit any time by habit," but she held it back with great difficulty. It was precisely because she dealt with coffins and hadn't taken lives that she narrowly escaped the calamity. Old Demon Duan and Green Blade Demon infiltrated Netherworld Mountain Villa through sneaky means, then relied on dishonorable tactics like ambush to barely overcome the Manor Master by half a move. And that half a move determined the life and death of Netherworld Mountain Villa. With the leader gone, Old Demon Duan and Green Blade Demon rampaged through the villa like a tiger entering a flock of sheep, repeatedly slaying, going in and out 7 times. The villa's assassins washed their faces with tears daily, pleading in vain, but ultimately failed to escape the clutches of the 2 demons. In the end, the entire Netherworld Mountain Villa was set aflame. The fire raged for days and nights before dying down. The handful of survivors are said to be somewhat mad now, claiming the wind carries whispers of, "I want to be a hero," a sign that Old Demon Duan and Green Blade Demon are coming for their lives. Chapter 325. Listening to the storyteller's nonsense, Duan Yun and the Murong brothers were somewhat surprised. There were actually survivors. The evil demons were indeed cunning. Despite their numerous searches, some had still slipped through the net. At this moment, someone in the audience said, "Old Demon Duan has only recently claimed the Chongling sect for himself and wiped out the Thunder God and Mother sect. Now he has also destroyed the Netherworld Mountain Villa. Does he really want to be the Martial Arts Alliance hierarch?" The storyteller slammed his gavel and said, "Exactly. For those of us who can discern right from wrong, we know that Old Demon Duan is wreaking havoc in the martial world. Whether it's transforming the Chongling sect's swordswoman into his private property, wiping out the Honest Thunder Listening's Thunder God and Mother sect, or brutally murdering everyone in the Netherworld Mountain Villa, these are all disasters for the martial world, tragedies indeed. And yet today, there are those who are blind, revering the old demon, saying Old Demon Duan is acting for heaven, and they may actually push him to be the Martial Arts Alliance hierarch." Then someone else in the audience said, "Except for turning the swordswoman into private property, those other sects that were exterminated didn't have many good people to begin with. Take Netherworld Mountain Villa. As long as you provided enough silver, they'd kill innocent women, children, infants, even bystanders." The storyteller became furiously angry, saying, "Who told you such nonsense? Have you not heard of eradicating the roots? Even the emperor likes to execute the family unto the 9th degree. Being an assassin is not easy. If you don't do a clean job, no one will hire you again. You might get a bad review and ruin your reputation." The man replied, "The great hero storyteller from the east of the city said it. They said Old Demon Duan is a true hero. When a hero arrives, justice prevails. He's not the Martial Arts Alliance hierarch. Then who is?" The storyteller shouted. "So it's a spy sent by a rival. Get out." The man walked away grumbling. But the hearts of Duan Yun and the Murong brothers were already changing. If they were a bit angry but numb when they heard the storyteller's nonsense and slander. After all, this is how Duan Yun has been slandered all along. But at this moment, suddenly hearing someone defending them, praising them, it would be a lie to say they weren't moved. That can be called a spark in the darkness, not bright, but able to illuminate the path ahead and like a warm bosom in a snow-covered land, always providing comfort and warmth to the weary. Just having the great hero storyteller speak for them inspired them to intensify their efforts in acting heroically. As idols, they absolutely couldn't disappoint their fans. If the world is filled with such filth, then they must overturn the entire world with their heroic spirit. Both men were very excited, their hands clasped together, encouraging each other so much that bystanders thought they were being affectionate. Listening to a story and generating such intense affection, these 2 men were really something. At this moment, the storyteller coughed and said, "The disrupting contemporary has been chased away. Everyone, continue to listen. For Old Demon Duan to be the Martial Arts Alliance hierarch, it's not so easy." A woman said, "Who can curb this scoundrel now? He has caused chaos in the martial world for so long and has never been defeated. It's truly disheartening." The storyteller began, "Young lady, although Old Demon Duan, in alliance with Green Blade Demon, boldly causes disasters and wreaks havoc in the martial world, making quite the commotion in terms of prestige requisite for the Martial Arts Alliance hierarch, he's still not at the forefront." "Is that so? I don't believe it." The woman replied, Young lady, you truly should not bolster another's ambition and deflate your own prestige. To elect a martial arts alliance hierarch that has been suspended for a century, the couple from Huangshan Sword Sect remain the most prestigious. With the emergence of the Azure Dragon, the sect leader's lady from Huangshan Sword Sect alone obtained 2 dragon essences and is said to have refined them, achieving the supreme divine skill. Later, many martial heroes who consumed dragon meat joined Huangshan Sword Sect. With an already solid foundation, Huangshan Sword Sect is now rising with the wind. The sect leader's lady is viewed as the rightful recipient. Old Demon Duan's current momentum can only stand aside. Old man, I'm telling you, Old Demon Duan cannot possibly handle Huangshan Sword Sect. Huangshan is the insurmountable mountain that Old Demon Duan can never cross. The storyteller puffed out his chest and raised his head, speaking with a thumping conviction that drew applause from the crowd. Duan Yun, thinking of the Huangshan golden sword in his bag, muttered, "Is that so?" Upon seeing this, the Morong brothers asked, "You're not seriously thinking about targeting Huangshan Sword Sect, are you? You're not really planning to become the Martial Arts Alliance hierarch, are you?" This only further excited the Morong brothers, one of them tightly clasping Duan Yun's hand, saying, "If you become the Martial Arts Alliance hierarch, wouldn't I get to be the deputy?" Duan Yun withdrew his hand and asked, "What good does being the Martial Arts Alliance hierarch do?" "Of course it does. It's about reigning over the martial world for generations." "Really?" Duan Yun asked doubtfully. The Morong brother explained, "If it were truly so, it wouldn't have been vacant for over 100 years. Look, the martial world is still divided among various large clans and sects. If you become the Martial Arts Alliance hierarch, sure, people will give you some face, but when it's time to actually do something, who's really willing to put in the effort? But when someone faces difficulties and turns to you, the Martial Arts Alliance hierarch, what will you do? Nah. If you don't help, then you're not doing a good job as the Martial Arts Alliance hierarch, you're not being honorable. Who cares? If you worry about it, you'll end up entangled in trouble. Like if someone's problem is a lack of silver, do you lend it or not?" Duan Yun pondered. It seems that being the Martial Arts Alliance hierarch really is a hot potato. Morong nodded and said, "Not just a hot potato, but being the Martial Arts Alliance hierarch comes with a curse." "What curse?" "It's easy to die violently. The previous Martial Arts Alliance hierarch, Yubushan, mastered an unrivaled swordsmanship, ended up castrating himself, and under the pretext of uniting the 5 major sword sects as one family, he tried to forcibly merge them and dominate the martial world. Just 6 months after coming into power, he was killed by his own wife." "Killed by his wife?" Duan Yun exclaimed. Of course, with no manhood left, how could his wife be satisfied? Marital disharmony naturally leads to trouble. "Ah, how can you not properly cherish a woman?" said Morong. "In any case, it's rare for the past martial arts alliance hierarchs to meet a good end. Either they end up separated from wives and children, or at odds with brothers, resulting in a violent death. Everyone in the martial world says it's great to be the martial arts alliance hierarch. With such a position, do you still want it?" murmured Morong meaningfully. Duan Yun shook his head and said, "Of course not, but I'm a bit pissed off." "Pissed off about what?" "I already had some minor conflicts with a few from the Huangshan Sword Sect, and hearing that damn storyteller say I was inferior to them made me want to smack their faces hard. I wish I could make them kneel on the ground, searching for their teeth." Duan Yun thought aloud. Of those who irritated him, he would thoroughly trounce them. That feeling really felt good. Morong hurriedly said, "Duan, you shouldn't take this personally." Thinking it over, Duan Yun waved his hand and said, "You're right. All the evil and heretical forces in this world deserve to die. But as of now, I haven't heard anything particularly evil about the Huangshan Sword Sect. At most, we just have a few differences, no need to wipe them out." Chuckle, chuckle, chuckle. Ha ha ha. Suddenly, laughter rang out. Duan Yun and Morong looked up to see a group of people who had gathered nearby. Caught up in their conversation, Morong was explaining things passionately, naturally attracting a crowd. Then, The man who was laughing hardest, holding onto a woman, said to Duan Yun, "Go on, go on. Wang, what's so funny?" At that moment, a middle-aged man approached. "Ha ha ha. Mr. Li, come over here, you've got to hear this. Someone's playing the role of old demon Duan, and even talking about wiping out the Huangshan sword sect's whole family." With these words, the whole crowd burst into even louder laughter. "What? Wiping out the Huangshan sword sect's whole family? That's terrifying." That middle-aged man, also one who loved spectacles, touched Duan Yun's hair and said, "Look at his split ends. In this day and age, you think looking slightly handsome qualifies you to impersonate old demon Duan? Old Zhang from next door at least carries both sword and saber, the dual masters of sword and saber. Where are your sword and saber?" Seeing this, the man turned to Murong and said, "If he's old demon Duan, based on your look, aren't you the green blade demon? What do you think?" Murong tossed his hair. Just then, with a snap, a cold wind suddenly sprang up in the room, sending the man flying out. The group stood frozen. After a long moment, they looked outside at the fallen Mr. Li and then at Murong's swaying green hair, and couldn't help but scream, "Ah! Green Saber, the green blade demon." 3 of them ran away in terror, while 2 others fainted from shock. Murong couldn't help but mutter, "Has our reputation really come to the point of knocking people out cold?" Duan Yun retorted, "Your reputation, not mine." Chapter 326. Biological sister, male sister, or true fate. Nighttime void of stars and moon. Within a court full of green moss stood a huge cauldron, stewing meat, the broth white and frothy, wafting wave after wave of fragrance. At this moment, 4 robed figures in black were feasting on meat and sipping soup. The cauldron itself was so large it would be no issue to stew 2 cows in it, and their chopsticks and soup ladles were absurdly long, too. Each pair of chopsticks was 9 meters long, even longer than the Overlord's spear, making it quite a task to manage a bite of meat with them. Yet these black-cloaked individuals seemed to be thoroughly enjoying their meal, for they were not feeding themselves but rather each other. Their presence seemed to assert a principle. With mutual aid and concerted effort, all could dine heartily. The large pot of meat was quickly emptied, even much of the soup consumed, leaving only large bones bobbing in the cauldron. Having nearly finished eating, the robed figure on the left spoke. "Old demon Duan has wiped out Sea Village, costing us 4 whole floors of manpower. What shall we do?" She purposely deepened her voice, trying to sound like a man, but one could easily tell she was a woman. Her counterpart across the cauldron, whose mask was engraved with the character Yaoji, inhaled sharply and said, "Of all the people Sea Village could have antagonized, they had to mess with old demon Duan. Not only did they provoke him, but they were also exterminated, with their estate burned to the ground. Truly lost face for the immortals." This person seemed to be speaking the dialect of Yunyu, but it didn't quite sound authentic. Whether this was an affected accent or their natural way of speaking made deliberately inexact was unclear to all. "What do you think, Lao Daoba?" Confronted with the question, the black-robed figure with a huge knife handle adorning his mask said, "The Netherworld Mountain Villa has not seen such tragedy in many years. Old Fong is dead, so be it. The villa is burnt, so be that. But once people's loyalty is incinerated, that's when things get difficult. How will the martial world view us? And the golden signboard of the Netherworld Mountain Villa?" The female robed figure proposed. "Then what's to be done? Why don't you take the lead and deal with old demon Duan?" Lao Daoba sneered and retorted, "Why should I take the lead? In such matters, it should be the one who resides in White Jade City who speaks." At this, the 3 of them looked towards the 4th figure to the north. This person had half a mustache, leaving the left side of his face clean-shaven, youthful and handsome, while the right side bore a mustache, bestowing him a refined and astute appearance. He spread his hands and said, "But it's been several years since one could ascend White Jade City." "Why can't they ascend it?" asked the woman in black. 4 years ago, White Jade City was enveloped in a magical fog. None who entered have come back out, little Huzi explained.
"Magical fog?"
Has the Capital Master's eternal life sword truly advanced in its cultivation? Lao Daoba asked with a grave expression. Little Huzi shook his head. No one knows. If the Capital Master is still alive, he's probably not far from success. The rest nodded in agreement. They had been to White Jade City before and knew the situation there. If the Capital Master had stayed inside for 4 years and lived, it was very likely that he had succeeded, or at least reached the cultivation where one could go without food for years. After all, there was no food in White Jade City unless one resorted to consuming bodies that disappeared in the magical fog. A fog emitting such an aura indicated signs of a breakthrough for the eternal life sword. Unconsciously, a look of fear and envy appeared in their eyes. Lao Daoba theorized, without the Capital Master present, let's set the matter aside for now. The other three nodded. The resolution was unspoken. Netherworld Mountain Villa controlled countless assassins, a formidable force. Although the 4 present were of the Manor Master rank, this was just one of their identities. All said and done, Netherworld Mountain Villa was only one arm of their power, a tool for making money and killing. But to risk their lives against Old Demon Duan was something they were unwilling to do. Although they cooperated well while eating meat, showing great tacit understanding, they were not truly united in spirit. They required someone to pressure them. And the person capable of applying such pressure had been in White Jade City these past years, unseen. Should the Capital Master appear, the likes of Old Demon Duan and the Green Blade Demon would naturally meet a dismal end, sparing them the current headache. But they were also aware that Old Demon Duan was petty. This time he targeted Sea Village, but there's no ensuring he wouldn't hold a grudge against their estates as well. Caution was of the essence. After the burning of Netherworld Mountain Villa, Duan Yun and the Murong siblings naturally had to return to their own mountain villa. Netherworld Mountain Villa was grand and majestic. Duan Yun had even entertained the idea of impersonating a villa manor master to turn it into a heroic villa, but ultimately it was a den of sordid sorts, and while residing there temporarily was tolerable, truly living there was not to his liking. Yuzhu Villa, though dilapidated, was pitifully small compared to Netherworld Mountain Villa, almost looking like a geomantic treasure near the graveyard, but its inhabitants were lovely. Only in Yuzhu Villa did Duan Yun and the Murong siblings feel at ease and happy. Yes, that was where heroes belonged. Having accomplished a great deed in the martial world, it was natural they should indulge. They hired a luxurious carriage, spacious enough not just for them but also for Grey Donkey Little Grey and the horse. Thus, a carriage drawn by 4 horses appeared on the road, carrying both humans and animals in luxury. Apart from the pearls, the 2 young heroes acquired a substantial amount of ill-gotten gains. Murong siblings brought forth a chest of gold from the haul they discovered in Impermanence Hall, saying, "We've got quite a haul of gold this time. How do you plan to spend it? Before we head back, shall we play around in Wangchun City?" Indeed, even someone of the caliber of the Murong family's scion deemed it a substantial sum of gold. Chapter 327. Being able to find joy in Wangchun City, the place known for squandering gold, for quite some time. At once, Duan Yun and the Murong brothers all fell into deep thought, even feeling somewhat troubled. The troubles of happiness. How should this gold be spent? Couldn't just be used to indulge in lowly pleasures, right? Duan Yun looked out the window at the scenery and said, "Apart from what we'll use, let's donate the rest." The Murong brothers couldn't help but show a look of admiration, saying, "No wonder you rank ahead of me among young heroes. Your enlightenment truly exceeds mine." This wasn't the first time Duan Yun had donated silver. Last time there was a flood in Yu State, he donated all that he should have. It hurt quite a bit at the time, but it didn't feel as painful this time. Indeed, as a young hero, Duan Yun was gradually learning to appreciate the joy of having less money. He was happy being a young hero, he was happy looting ill-gotten gains from corpses. But after acquiring such wealth, he felt less happy, because he had always lived a life without much wealth. And even in a life without much wealth, he was happy. This silver, if not spent, would be a waste just lying with him, worrying about being stolen. And if he spent it all in one go, that too would be a waste, even a sinful kind of waste. After all, on his journey, He had passed through many prosperous towns where many could afford tea and listen to storytelling. Gambling houses and brothels were everywhere, whereas in some places it was very poor. Children were thin with yellowish skin, never having tasted an egg, and some farmers worked themselves to death without being able to afford a thin coffin for burial. Thus, this gold and silver truly became cumbersome money in his possession. In that case, the best thing was to donate it. And who to donate to? Duan Yun already had an idea in his heart. Bodhi Charity Hall should be the sect he trusted the most. So he decided to donate to Bodhi Charity Hall. It appeared to be the Murong brothers' first time donating money. The first time is always exciting and exhilarating, and he felt the joy in advance. For some reason, being with Duan Yun, he experienced many firsts. He had done things he never even thought about before, and far from feeling uncomfortable, he felt a sense of joy. This person seemed to possess a magical power that filled his life with different experiences. He couldn't help but want to shout out, "I want to be a hero!" That was also why, though he once wanted to die, he now wanted to live more and more. Now that this burdensome money had found a place to go, both men felt a sense of relief in body and soul. Winter days, bright sun, the warm sunlight on the body felt quite comfortable. Duan Yun and the Murong brothers couldn't help but lift the curtain of the carriage, enjoying the rare good weather. The horses pulling the cart were good horses, steady and powerful, and the driver skilled. You could drink in the carriage and the wine would pour into the cup without spilling a drop. This was an enjoyment before the gold was donated. And Duan Yun and the Murong brothers were certainly not stingy with this pleasure. They basked in the sun, drinking wine. When Duan Yun had first crossed over, he didn't like drinking. The ordinary wine of this world, like the baijiu from his last life, seemed rougher and far less palatable than happy fat house water. But drinking and drinking, he came to taste the flavor. Especially drinking with the Murong brothers and Shining, the taste was even better. Now the two slowly sipped their wine, talking about the interesting stories they encountered on their journey. Duan Yun couldn't help saying, "Actually, I know someone in Yuanling." The Murong brothers said, "That corpse-chasing brother?" Duan Yun nodded and said, "I wonder if he's married yet." Murong brothers said, "Why don't you go and ask? Maybe you'll even get to drink a cup of wedding wine. I know in the Yuanling area, people usually marry around the New Year." Duan Yun laughed and said, "No need for that. We've been out long enough. We can't delay the New Year." Murong brothers became serious and said, "You have a point. People can't not eat, nor can they skip celebrating the New Year. It's too lonely to be wandering outside during the New Year." But at that moment, a bitterness rose in the Murong brothers' heart. Returning to Yuzhu Villa, Duan Yun had people waiting for him, more than one, yet he had no one. Then, a carriage passed close by theirs. The curtain in the opposite carriage was also lifted so they saw the person inside. It was a beautifully dressed woman in blue. As the carriages traveled side by side, the woman even sneaked looks at them. It was undoubtedly a pleasant thing to be peeped at by a beautiful woman. Afterward, as the carriages parted, the Murong brothers couldn't help saying, "Who do you think she was looking at just now?" Duan Yun crossed a leg and said, "She was looking at you." The Murong brothers said joyously, "I also think she was looking at me." Suddenly, a feeling of infatuation began to grow in his heart. He couldn't help saying, "I feel we are fated." Seeing him like this, Duan Yun's cheeks couldn't help twitching, saying, "Could it be your sister?" "Your sister? I wish Xiaoying and Yu Xinjin were all your sisters," Murong brothers retorted, swearing. Duan Yun. Ahead, there was a small town by the water. Duan Yun and the Murong brothers planned to stay there for the night. Unexpectedly, just as Murong brothers said, they were fated with the woman on the carriage. When they stayed at an inn in the town, they ended up in the same inn, even sitting in the dining hall on the ground floor for a meal. Murong brothers couldn't help murmuring, "I told you so. When fate arrives, there's no stopping it." Duan Yun couldn't help but retort, "This is the only town to stop at nearby. The only inn in town. What kind of fate is this?" Chapter 328. Murong didn't mind and said, "I think you're just jealous of me." It must be said, The lady in blue still glanced over at them from time to time during the meal, as if she really had some interest in one of them. Murong was very nervous and excited, behaving like a maiden fresh out of her boudoir. Duan Yun, on the other hand, acted rather casually. The lady was pretty and dressed well, but compared to Xiao Ying, Yu Zhenjin, Murong's sister Feng Linger, and Fu Wanjun, she was a notch below. Chance encounters on the road were not as exciting to him as the time he opened Xiao Ying's coffin. By now, the lady had finished eating. When she got up, she looked over again and even smiled at Duan Yun and Murong. That smile, it completely captivated Murong. She has me in her heart. Our children will definitely be beautiful. At this moment, he began to take out a pearl as big as a longan, contemplating which one to give her as a token of affection. Duan Yun couldn't help but say, "You haven't even spoken a word to her. No need to get so worked up?" Murong shook his head with a smile and said, "You don't understand." Such behavior from him made Duan Yun suspect that the lady in blue might be his sister. Duan Yun couldn't help but remind him, "She wasn't the only one smiling at you." "What? Someone else is fated with me too." "Who?" Murong suddenly became nervous. "Look at the two by the window, they've been staring at you and smiling," said Duan Yun. Murong looked over and couldn't help but tighten up. There were two one-eyed strong men staring at his behind, displaying charming smiles. "And that one at the door has been looking at you for quite a long time." Murong looked again, tightening up even more. It was a middle-aged scholar, looking somewhat refined, but he was not just looking at him, he was even licking his lips. "And there's—" "Stop! I'm going off to sleep." Unable to handle being so popular, Murong hurried back to his room. The next day, in the inn, Murong and Duan Yun went down to the ground floor dining hall for breakfast. There were many more people in the morning than at night, and they waited a while before getting a table. Hardly had he taken a few bites when Murong was stunned. The lady in blue had come downstairs. She seemed new to the martial world, and she paused, looking flustered when she saw no tables available. Upon spotting Murong and Duan Yun seated there, she looked over again, her face turning red. But moments later, she bit her lips secretly and walked over. Murong, having stealthily witnessed this, stepped on Duan Yun's big toe and muttered, "No way. She isn't really coming over, is she? Does she truly want to have sons and daughters with me? May I sit here?" The lady's voice sounded pleasant. Perhaps coincidental or not, the bustling dining hall suddenly quieted down enough that everyone heard her. People nearby couldn't help but look over, and the lady's face turned even redder. Murong was still standing on Duan Yun's toe, and fearing that his toe might get flattened, Duan Yun quickly said, "Of course." The lady sat down, her cheeks flushed as she said, "Thank you." This time, both Duan Yun and Murong were surprised. Although Murong was loud-mouthed, he was clear that despite being dashing, he still fell a bit short compared to old demon Duan, and the lady's sneaky peeks and smiles were likely aimed at Duan Yun. Duan Yun thought so too, but this time, the lady sitting at the table was sneakily peeking at Murong, appearing somewhat shy. This made Duan Yun suddenly get anxious. Anxious for Murong. This woman. He was nervous that this woman might be Murong's half-sister from the same father, and also anxious that this woman might not be a woman at all, potentially setting Murong up for another heartache. Yes, there are quite a few men in the martial world who look very much like women, sometimes even prettier than women, like the now-deceased peacock demon. Duan Yun admitted that he was a bit better than Murong, but when it came to attracting men, he was nowhere close. Is this woman really his half-sister? Or perhaps not even a sister at all? Or is she truly the right match for Murong? Chapter 329. Young Hero Wooming. Who Dares to Defy? In the spacious carriage, Duan Yun sat alone, heading towards Yuzhu Villa. You ask where Murong has gone. Murong naturally became the flower protector for the girl in blue because of fate, saying farewell as he escorted her to visit relatives. There's no helping it. This endlessly lovelorn man seemed to have met the right person once again, especially after learning that this girl was from the north, and presumably wouldn't have any connection with the Murong family head. Murong was even more convinced of it. Thus, he resolutely left Duan Yun behind to escort the girl to visit her relatives. Since she said she was new to the martial world and didn't understand much, Duan Yun was reassured to let Morong go. After all, Morong is an old riverside. As for whether Morong could be deceived or fall into a woman's trap, Duan Yun was optimistic. At one time, many sisters wanted to kill Morong, yet he was unscathed, showing that Morong at least was very capable. Or perhaps, now that Green Blade Demon is renowned throughout the martial world, it seems more like others should be afraid of him. Moreover, he sneaked into the girl's room last night, used the point technique to make her fall asleep, and then used absorption star skills on her for a while, confirming during her shivering that she hadn't lied. Those shattered memories showed the girl really seemed to have sneaked out from her home as if she was new to the outside world. Sneaking out from home and entering the martial world for the first time, and meeting the chivalrous Morong who is particularly eager to help beauties. It's practically a cliched romantic story. As a good brother of Morong, he only hopes Morong truly meets the right person this time. After enduring several doomed love defeats, Morong really needs the nourishment of a love romance. Otherwise, Duan Yun feels he might become somewhat perverted. After all, not everyone is capable of lying under a bed to enhance their power, surrounded by green poisonous sword chi. He himself couldn't do it either. With Morong gone, the spacious carriage suddenly became even more comfortable. Duan Yun laid straight down, putting the wine cup on his belly, and sipped the wine. On the other side, Morong was also sitting inside a carriage, but with Miss Ning Qing beside him. Until now, Morong still felt it was like a dream, unable to help saying, "I never dreamed you would choose me." Miss Ning Qing shyly said, "Because you look very powerful." Morong's mouth turned up, confidently saying, "Do you think I'm more capable than my friend? And that's why you chose me?" Ning Qing glanced at him, couldn't help but laugh out loud and said, "Not really. He seems even more powerful than you. But since he looks so handsome, he probably wouldn't care about me. So, ah?" Morong's spirit deflated. But Ning Qing quickly said, "I think being suitable is the best. You and I are the most suitable, and I'm very happy you can escort me." Hearing this, Morong's smile returned. "Look at that, old demon Duan, I won. You're a little bit better looking than me, yet not suitable. Today again, the weather is beautiful, with bright sunshine." Duan Yun lay in the carriage, enjoying the rare leisure. This high-priced coachman seemed very good at guessing the customer's thoughts, and just now, he couldn't help but slow down naturally, making the whole carriage enter an especially leisurely comfortable state. By the roadside there was a small river and beside it a path. Some people were strolling on the path, some sunbathing, some picking wild vegetables. But a particular family caught Duan Yun's attention. It was a couple dressed cleanly with a girl about 10 years old in the middle. Duan Yun noticed them because the girl's legs were lame, or rather, her legs were in a very frail state. Visibly, the girl's legs were atrophied, so she was supported by her parents in walking. The cleanly dressed family had a child with disabled legs. Undoubtedly an unfortunate occurrence. Yet, Duan Yun couldn't see any misfortune on their faces. The family was clean, faces wearing happy smiles, as warm as the winter's sun. Clearly, the parents loved their daughter dearly. When they passed a beautiful purple wildflower on the road, the middle-aged man quickly bent down, picked it, and gave it to the girl. The girl smelled the fragrance of the flower, her face suddenly bursting with a very happy smile, even more radiant than the blooming flowers. At that moment, Duan Yun suddenly felt an urge to cry. Being in this world for so long, from nearly being kicked to death when he was a doctor, to now being known as a young hero by many people, he had experienced a lot. He had killed many people, done many things, and faced tough times, even being slandered as a demon, yet he had never cried. But at this moment he wanted to cry. Perhaps today's sun was too good, or perhaps the warmth by the roadside in this deceitful and murderous world was truly precious, touching him so that Duan Yun really felt an urge to cry. And so he cried out loud, because this was the kind of world he longed for. "Stop the carriage," Duan Yun said. The carriage slowly halted, the coachman somewhat surprised by why the guest suddenly cried. Could it be that he missed that male guest? Could they really be? The family of three continued walking along the riverbank, and by then, Duan-Yun had already stepped down from the carriage, saying, "Wait a moment." Chapter 330. Upon hearing the noise, the three turned their heads to see Duan-Yun with a saber and sword. Instinctively, the man shielded his wife and daughter behind him and nervously asked, "May I ask, hero, what guidance do you have for us?" Seeing their reaction, Duan-Yun said, "Don't be nervous. I am a doctor, and I might be able to attempt healing your daughter's leg." "Really?" the man asked, not quite believing. "You can let me give it a try," Duan-Yun said with a smile. He was naturally handsome and was indeed a doctor, so with that slight smile, it truly epitomized the compassionate heart of a medical practitioner. Even the husband, who was the most guarded in the family of three, felt somewhat reassured at this moment. Duan-Yun walked over and had the little girl sit on the ground. He wasn't sure if he could really heal her. If it was just a muscular issue, he would be able to handle it. After mastering the power of thunder and lightning, he had already possessed the ability to unblock channels and rejuvenate atrophied muscles, but he was still not clear on more troublesome diseases like neural issues. He could only try. Actually, the family of three didn't hold much hope. They had seen doctors before, even quite a few, all to no avail. The next moment, electric light was already emerging from Duan-Yun's fingertips, making a crackling sound. This startled the little girl and her family. This was clearly an unconventional method. They found it difficult to understand, an approach they had never heard of before. Crackle. As the electric current entered the little girl's atrophied muscles, Duan-Yun could already sense the serious blockage in the girl's meridians and flesh. But that was not a problem. Just needed to increase the intensity. As the electric current continued to surge, the little girl's leg began to tremble, and the excess current even caused her hair to stand on end and flutter about. The couple was terribly frightened, but the little girl was quite composed, even saying, "Mom, it feels comfortably numb and tingly." The next moment, a miraculous scene occurred. As Duan-Yun increased the voltage, the little girl's withered muscles actually began to bulge as if they were exerting effort. What Duan-Yun saw was even deeper. He wasn't just reviving these muscles, but also clearing the blockages in the little girl's leg meridians. After a while, Duan-Yun stopped. The little girl was sweating profusely and excitedly said, "Dad, Mom, I think I can put in some effort now." Before, her legs were unresponsive, but now, she seemed to have made contact with them. "Try standing up," Duan-Yun pondered and said. With help, the little girl stood up and then walked 3 steps in front of her parents. Although she only took 3 steps before nearly falling and being supported by her father, the change still excited her immensely. "Dad, Mom, I can walk." Duan-Yun nodded and said, "Walk more in the future, and you should be able to recover." At this, the family couldn't help but hold each other, weeping with joy. "It's wonderful! It's wonderful!" On this riverside in spring, the scene was truly beautiful. By the time the family came around to thank the doctor, the handsome doctor was nowhere to be seen. He had arrived unexpectedly and left just as silently. In the family's minds, he was like a celestial being. Fortunately, there were still some traces of the carriage at the end of their sight. Knowing they couldn't catch up, they knelt and bowed in that direction. Not just them, even the coachman now believed Duan-Yun to be a celestial being. Who else could produce electricity from their fingertips and heal a cripple? Having been a coachman for so many years, he had only heard that the thunder listeners from Thunder God and Mother Sect could emit electricity, but those people all had iron flutes stuck on their heads and acted crazily, haphazardly taking human lives, never heard of saving people. Besides, he had heard that the thunder listeners had been wiped out by someone named Old Demon Duan some time ago, probably even harder to find now. Having casually healed a little girl, Duan-Yun felt very good. Whether it was slaying evil demons or healing others, it brought him joy. Now he had another pleasant thing to do. That was to donate this chest of gold. In use state, in an old and deserted house, it was somewhat desolate. This inconspicuous dwelling was an outpost of the Bodhi Temple. Duan-Yun carried the chest inside and asked, "Who is in charge here?" A middle-aged man came forward and said with a salute, "My name is Yun Fei. May I ask what guidance you have for us?" Duan Yun looked around and asked, "Why are there so few people here? An epidemic has broken out in the south. Most of my brothers and sisters have gone there," the middle-aged man replied. Duan Yun nodded and said, "It's nothing major. This is a donation for you folks." With that, he handed over the chest of gold. The middle-aged man took it with his hand and his body involuntarily sank. The chest was much heavier than he had imagined. Could it all be silver? The next moment, a glint of light from the chest caught his eye and dazzled him. Not silver, but all gold. As he saw Duan Yun turn to leave, he hastily asked, "May I know the noble name of this benefactor?" "Hero Wu Ming." As Duan Yun spoke, he had already disappeared outside the charity hall. The middle-aged man who called himself Li Yunfei still couldn't let it go and went out to look for this benefactor, but no trace of him could be found. Li Yunfei returned inside the charity hall, still somewhat shaky. At this moment, one of his junior brothers walked in and jumped with surprise upon seeing the chest of gold, saying, "Brother Li, where did this gold come from?" "Just now, a young man came and donated it directly. A single person, this amount, even more than young hero Duan last time. The world has really changed. With this going on, how can we worry about the lack of support for the good path?" The junior brother couldn't help exclaiming, "By the way, Brother Li, did the person leave a name?" Chapter 331. He calls himself the Nameless Young Hero. Nameless Young Hero? Another young hero? Wait a moment, brother. What does that person look like? He is very handsome, and I always felt there was something familiar about him, Li Yunfei muttered. Brother Li, think about it. Could it be because he resembles the sculpture outside the town which makes him look familiar? The junior brother suggested. Li Yunfei suddenly realized this and said excitedly, "Indeed it is. Young Hero Duan. Young Hero Duan." Both exclaimed in unison. For a moment, they were both at a loss for words. Li Yunfei couldn't help but exclaim, "Young Hero Duan is truly a hero whose generosity knows no bounds." This time, he didn't even wish to leave his name behind. The junior brother excitedly said, "Some say young hero Duan wants to become the Martial Arts Alliance hierarch. I don't care about the others in the charity hall. I'm definitely supporting him." In Fuyun Town's government office, all the local elites gathered. At the Bodhi Temple, Wu Shan spoke up, "Lord Qin, all you gentlemen, the vital medicinal herbs of these 13 cities are in your hands. If everyone dies, keeping the herbs will just lead them to rot." Seated at the head, Lord Qin contemplated and said, "Brother Wu, I know your heart is good, but these herbs weren't easy to come by either. Carefree Manor has so many mouths to feed just from our pharmacy. We can't simply give them away for free. Then you should take them out and sell them." Wu Shan couldn't help but say, seeing Lord Qin putting on airs, "Aren't there always troublemakers saying we sell them too dear? During such times, life-saving herbs are only marked up by less than fivefold." "Brother Wu, do you think that's expensive?" Lord Qin retorted. Wu Shan replied, "Lord Qin, with such prices at this time, ordinary people, even if struck by illness, can't afford it." Lord Qin shook his head and said, "Plagues are when the heavens reclaim lives. To survive such calamities, one must defy nature, so how could it not be expensive?" Hearing this, Wu Shan's fist clenched. Lord Qin saw this but scoffed indifferently. "What? Brother Wu got a problem with me? Does the Bodhi Temple want to start a fight? I give you respect by calling you brother. If I didn't respect you, even if Ro Puty himself were to come, it would be the same. I from Carefree Manor am reputed for our humanity and righteousness. Ask the surrounding people. None would dare criticize Carefree Manor. Let me say this first. Whether we speak of humanity or not, Carefree Manor does not favor appeasing others." Wu Shan frowned deeply. This Lord Qin was indeed a sly fox, very adept at manipulating people. Carefree Manor, already being a cutthroat martial arts family, truly did not need to give face to others. At this moment, a female disciple from Bodhi Temple hurried into the hall. saying, "Brother Wu, there's urgent news." Wu Shan opened the bamboo tube containing the message delivered by carrier pigeon, and as he read, his tightly knitted brows gradually relaxed. "Lord Qin, my Bodhi temple is prepared to purchase a batch of medicinal herbs," Wu Shan stated, putting away the letter. Lord Qin couldn't help but laugh. "I wonder how much the Bodhi temple wishes to buy." Just received news. A young hero donated 4,132 taels of gold. The gold will be soon delivered. We'll buy that amount, Wu Shan informed. 4,000 taels of gold. In Lord Qin's eyes, it was a significant amount, though not enormous. The key was that the gold was donated by a single individual, which was astonishing. Who in the world could casually donate 4,000 taels of gold? The last time he heard of such random gold donations, it was old Demon Duan. "Wait a minute. Old Demon Duan." Lord Qin's expression darkened, saying, "May I ask for the noble name of this young hero?" Wu Shan shook his head. "That young hero calls himself the Nameless Young Hero," donated the gold and left. "My junior brother didn't see clearly. Just thought he looked handsome and quite young, vaguely resembling someone wielding both sword and saber." Old Demon Duan. Before Lord Qin could speak, Master Zhao had already exclaimed. A person who could donate so much like a madman, also handsome and a dual masters of sword and saber, could only be Old Demon Duan. Master Zhao then quickly corrected himself. Young Hero Duan. When did he start calling himself the Nameless Young Hero? Lord Qin's expression became gloomy. He has never been short of aliases. At this, the situation became tricky. He wasn't afraid of Bodhi Temple. One, because Carefree Manor had the background and capability, and more importantly, he knew Bodhi Temple's principle of action. They wouldn't easily turn hostile. But with Old Demon Duan involved, it was different. Old Demon Duan was a madman, a vindictive destroyer obsessed with exterminating sects. Not long ago, he heard that following the Mother Sect, even the always mysterious and elusive Netherworld Manor had been exterminated. Perhaps this gold came from Netherworld Manor. If he found out his own gold was being used to buy their pricey herbs, that small-mindedness would lead to... Lord Qin momentarily felt a chill. The other nobles looked at him, awaiting his decision. Alas, the world is merciless, but people must be kind. Brother Wu, will sell all these herbs at cost price. Let's consider it aid for the populace, Lord Qin declared. At that moment, Master Zhao added, Brother Wu, I have a warehouse full of ula grass, all donated to the charity hall for disaster relief. I'll donate 500 caddies of cornelian, another nobleman declared boldly. Seeing the old followers so eager, Lord Qin with a pained expression said, My Carefree Manor's warehouse of red flowers too, all donated. It wasn't that he wasn't firm, but genuinely afraid that Old Demon Duan might suddenly come knocking someday. That Old Demon Duan truly never did any good, only knew how to bring disaster. This perfect opportunity for making quite a profit. Not only did he not grasp a single benefit, but now he also had to compensate. For a moment, Lord Qin thought over many things, and the more he thought, the colder and more painful it felt, sorrier than losing a wife. He had already heard that Old Demon Duan wanted to be the Martial Arts Alliance hierarch. If that madman really became the hierarch, would they still have good days? With Old Demon Duan in this world, things are truly ruined. Chapter 332. Fairy Ziyu, you're quite ill. After donating gold, Duan Yun felt a relief throughout his body. Killing, saving people, turning ill-gotten wealth into righteousness. All these gave him the wonderful experience of being a young hero. Of course, he did not know that the chest of gold he donated had resolved an urgent need for 13 cities plagued by an epidemic. Sometimes natural disasters are actually man-made. If there were fewer man-made disasters, natural disasters would be easier to deal with. Unknowingly, Duan Yun's every action started to influence others and even certain powers, although he himself was oblivious. Of course, his influence also earned him deep hatred from many, such as Lord Qin and others, who instead of profiting from disasters, faced losses. Duan Yun had killed many and offended many, both overtly and covertly. This group of people were all eagerly wishing for his failure, his death. Fortunately, he was one in 10,000 cultivation prodigies, undefeated from the start. Nameless young hero. Duan Yun muttered his new title, quite satisfied with it. The title sounded humble and low-key, very much like a master. Since he had done what needed to be done, Duan Yun told the coachman to speed up, rushing back to Yuzhu Villa. After a few sunny days, what followed were the commonly seen overcast days in winter. In such weather, it is easy for people to feel depressed. Duan Yun found that, no matter the world, he never liked winter much. Winter is always bleak, harsh for the poor, and lonelier for the lonely. Thankfully, Duan Yun was going back to Yuzhu Villa. In the depths of winter, people should stay in the warmth of home, hence the term hibernation. That afternoon, Duan Yun returned to Yuzhu Villa. The families that needed to be annihilated were gone, the human skin mask was destroyed, Murong brothers had found their true love, and he returned still as a young hero. Looking at the familiar old gate and the patchy walls, Duan Yun couldn't help feeling a sense of attachment. The gate was closed, so Duan Yun simply climbed over the wall. I'm back. He strolled around and found the villa unexpectedly deserted. No, even Big White was not there. Linger and Feng Linger were probably out, taking even Big White with them, maybe to listen to stories, fish, or maybe even to engage in acts of valor or just to join in the excitement. That's how it is in the martial world. Especially those who like joining in the excitement, not practicing kung fu properly, not eating properly, and always ready to gather around spinning tales, claiming to know someone, reminiscing about fighting alongside someone. This is also why many die from curiosity in the martial world every year. Speaking of acts of valor, Duan Yun couldn't help but think of Big White's boxing stance. This house's horse, donkey, and a panda, it's only Panda Dubai who has the potential to be a hero. As for the other two he brought back, they are just hopeless. There, Little Gray was already joyfully running to the backyard to graze with the horse. Duan Yun didn't even go to his room, heading straight for the cellar. The cellar was practically his palace, dearly missed whenever he was away for a while. Upon reaching the cellar, Duan Yun felt the air was fragrant, and couldn't help himself from lying down. Though the floor of the cellar was hard, he felt as if he was lying on cotton. It would be better if there were more people here. At that moment, Duan Yun thought of Lang Yiming and Lang Yishue, the Busta Goddess catchers. Indeed, the first time he fixed the cellar was to imprison them. Unfortunately, that plan was never realized. Wait, me, a law-abiding young hero, how could I consider imprisoning goddess catchers a grave crime? It's all this damn book's fault. Young people shouldn't read such books. Saying this, Duan Yun took out The Fall of the Goddess Constable from his bosom, casually flipped through a few pages, and threw it aside. The first half of the book was a masterpiece, but it had also become a bit tedious. After spending some time in his luxurious cellar, Duan Yun went back upstairs. He went into the kitchen. Several strips of cured meat were hanging from the kitchen beams, apparently smoked. It must have been prepared by Feng Linger and Ing, and Duan Yun immediately craved it. He flicked his fingers, slicing off a chunk of streaky cured meat, and started to make fire for cooking. This meal was simple and unadorned, just cured meat with white rice. The cured meat on top of the rice steaming in the pot, the kitchen quickly filled with the aroma of the meat. Duan Yun could hardly wait, so he copied a move from a movie, using true qi to intensify the flames. If only I had learned flame palm, maybe I could fry an egg on my hand. In less than the time it takes a stick of incense to burn, Duan Yun had already lifted the pot lid. Indeed, under the influence of his true qi, the rice and cured meat were cooked ahead of time. The fat from the cured meat mixed with the white rice looked tempting, and a thin layer of crispy rice formed at the bottom of the pot. Duan Yun quickly sat down to eat heartily. A bite of rice, a piece of meat, another bite of crispy rice crust. It was indescribably delicious. Eating a good meal is always a pleasurable experience. After finishing his meal, Duan Yun felt warm and a tad sleepy. Drinking too much can lead to drunkenness, Actually, eating too much can also cause drowsiness. And one of the best pleasures is to snooze a bit while tipsy or sleepy from a full stomach. Duan-yun then went to his room and lay on the familiar bed. His room was still clean even after being away for so long. Clearly someone had cleaned it. Chapter 333. Is it shadowing or feng linger? The bed even has a faint scent of rouge. The rouge scents used by feng linger and shadowing are completely different as their aspirations. But for the moment, he couldn't distinguish whose scent it was. Sigh, in the future, I have to smell more to identify women by their scent. There's a saying, what was it? Practice makes perfect. He had long mastered identifying women by their bosom. One could say his eyes were like rulers, but when it came to scent, he was still lacking. Lying on the bed, Duan-yun felt very relaxed, as if he was lying on a cloud. Suddenly, he felt something was not right. The rouge scent did not dissipate. It even seemed to be getting stronger. If it were just the scent left by feng linger and Shining after cleaning the room, it wouldn't be like this. The intensifying rouge scent could only mean there was someone nearby. He could even imagine someone sweating, mixing with the applied rouge, which caused the scent to grow stronger. Where around here can someone hide? His room was simply furnished, just a table, a stool, a bamboo cabinet, and a bed. The only places to hide a person were either under the cabinet or under the bed. Now, the cabinet was slightly ajar, containing a few pieces of his clothes and no trace of a person. That left only the bed. Who the hell is hiding under his bed? Couldn't be the Murong brothers returning early. Could it? Besides, the Murong brothers didn't have the habit of wearing rouge either. Thinking that there might be someone hiding under the bed, just separated by a bed plank, the feeling was actually not particularly novel. After all, the Murong brothers had stayed under his bed several times at the Chongling sect. Duan-yun pretended to be nonchalant, his back muscles suddenly tensed, and the moment he got out of bed, he flipped it over. Sure enough, there was someone lying underneath. A woman. A woman with a good figure. She wore dark, tight-fitting clothes, which as a result, accentuated her figure even more. The moment their eyes met, both were stunned for a second. Duan-yun was stunned because he realized he was mistaken. The person under his bed was not shadowing or feng linger, but a strange woman. The girl was startled because she hadn't expected the bed to be flipped over and herself to be discovered. The next moment, the woman made her move. A silver chain flew out with a swishing sound, quick and swift, instantly entangling Duan-yun's arm. This was a chain sword. The chain sword counted as one of the strange weapons in the martial world, strange meaning rare, which usually also suggested it was harder to master. This kind of chain sword could be soft or hard. Soft like a whip, hard like a long sword, changing between attack and defense effortlessly, very tricky. This woman's use of the sword was both fast and precise, as this chain sword was now coiled around Duan-yun's left arm, like a poisonous snake ready to strike. This indicated that the woman was indeed a master. The woman was confident, believing she could cripple Duan-yun's arm in an instant. She said leisurely, "Don't be nervous. I'm just here to find someone." Duan-yun barely moved his right hand, and she quickly warned, "Don't move, I ask, you answer. Who are you? Why are you here?" The woman with the sword asked. Duan-yun blinked and said, "Miss, this is my room, you're lying under my bed. Yet you ask who I am, why I am here. Isn't that a bit unreasonable?" The woman said, "Cut the smooth talk. Don't think you can seduce me just because you're handsome. First, let me tell you, I already have someone I like. No matter how you blink those eyes at me, I won't be swayed." Duan-yun, unconsciously, his fist had already clenched a bit tighter. Noticing this change, the woman said, "Don't move. Are you trying to hit me by clenching your fist? I've known all along that people like you, when you can't have me, will get furious and want to hit someone, or even destroy things." Duan-yun couldn't help but retort, "Where the hell did this shadow woman come from?" "Good. Now you're calling me a shadow woman. Men like you, whenever they can't have their way, only know how to slander. But I forgive you. I really am just here to find someone." The woman, with her ample bosom, looked at Duan-yun with forgiving eyes and said, Forgiven me? Seeing the woman so submissive, Duan Yun couldn't help but become somewhat interested and asked, "Who are you looking for?" "I'm looking for the Morong brothers." "Where are they?" the woman asked. "Little sister?" Duan Yun asked in confusion. "Don't try to cozy up to me. Just tell me where they are." Duan Yun honestly replied. He met a girl on the road and said they were fated, so he accompanied her to visit her relatives and didn't come back with me. "A girl? You're lying." Hearing this, the woman suddenly became agitated. "I know it, you must have taken a fancy to me, deliberately speaking nonsense to cause a rift between him and me, seeking an opportunity to get me," the woman said earnestly. "Duan Yun, don't deny it. You've been staring at me all along, especially at my chest, for at least 3 times, clearly showing you're interested. But I've told you, I already have someone in my heart, and although you are handsome, you should give up on that thought." As she spoke, the woman held her sword in one hand and covered her chest with the other. "Shut up." Duan Yun felt dizzy and couldn't help but blurt out, "What, you're angry because I hit the nail on the head?" With a whoosh, before she could finish her words, the obedient chain sword was already poised at her throat. "I told you to shut up." In that instant, Duan Yun used his fingers to clamp the chain sword with lightning speed and flicked it, leaving her sword lying on the bed limply like a struck-down poisonous snake. The woman didn't expect that this handsome man had such high kung fu skills and lightning-fast speed. Even the Murong brother she fancied could probably only be slightly faster than him. Finally, Duan Yun managed to silence the woman and couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief, saying, "Can we now speak properly?" But the next moment, a stream of tears slid down from the woman's eyes. She was crying. The young woman sobbed and said, "Even if you force me, even if you kill me, you won't win my heart. He's the only one in it." Duan Yun clenched his teeth and emphasized, "I'll say it again. I'm not interested in you. Your brother Murong really went to accompany someone visiting relatives. See, you're still saying you're not interested in me, yet you dare to slander me by saying he and I are siblings. What a clever plan you have. If we become siblings, I would surely be utterly heartbroken, and then you could take advantage of my vulnerability." Before she could finish her sentence, she was kicked out of the door by Duan Yun with a thud. "If you're waiting for your brother, behave yourself." Duan Yun cursed under his breath. He suddenly thought of something and said, "Aren't you called Ning Tian, with a pseudonym Fairy Ziyu?" The woman was lying on the ground. Her face turned red in an instant and she said, "You're still pretending. Tell me, when did you start keeping an eye on me to find out so much?" Duan Yun raised his eyebrows and gave a compassionate heart look, saying, "So it really is you." The girl shivered all of a sudden, covering her chest, and said, "What are you going to do?" Duan Yun questioned, "What am I going to do?" "Of course I'm going to feed you pastries. Tell me, did you write this book?" Duan Yun grabbed the woman up like a small chicken while taking out the half-book, The Fall of the Goddess Constable, and asked. The woman was stunned for a moment and said, "I guess I wrote it." "What do you mean, guess?" Duan Yun shook her vigorously. At this moment, the last trace of sunset glow had disappeared from the horizon. But at this time, the woman suddenly changed her expression and glared at Duan Yun, saying, "Bad guy." Duan Yun? His mother, she's still cursing? Bad guy. I knew this woman couldn't be trusted, claiming to be devoted to Murong. "But you're here flirting with a pretty boy," the woman said coldly. As she spoke, her tone and emotions were completely different, as if she had become another person. "Why are you pulling my clothes?" "I'm telling you, that girl might let you do it, but I won't agree," the woman protested. Duan Yun, crazy. Murong brother said that his sisters were all sick, some seriously so. This one seemed to be the sickest yet. Chapter 334. Extraordinary Wisdom in Motion. I, the young hero, have become a tooth. Duan Yun faced off against this woman who seemingly suffered from split personality. It must be acknowledged, this woman had transformed in such a way that even though her appearance remained the same, her demeanor and aura were entirely different. If before she seemed like a young girl prone to wild flights of fancy, the woman now was more like a commanding older sister, or simply a sister. At the very least, she exuded a much more mature aura. Facing Duan Yun, she didn't seem perturbed in the slightest, even taking an interested inspection of him. "Do whatever you want to do quickly, otherwise you won't have the chance," the woman spoke. Duan Yun frowned and said, "I'm not going to do anything. I just wanted to ask if you were called Ning Tia." Ning Tian is just a name I and that wretched woman used when disguising as a man. Seeing me called Green Jade, that wretched woman insisted on calling herself Ziyu. The young woman answered. "What about this book?" Duan Yun repeated the question he had asked before nightfall. It was odd. This was clearly one person, yet he had to treat her as two separate entities. Truly, a madhouse must be full of joy. Still, it wasn't clear if this was all an act. But there weren't many who could deceive him. At worst, he'd later capture her and scare her coldly in the cellar. Under the threat of cold shivering, it would be difficult for her to deceive this young hero. This woman who called herself Green Jade picked up that half of The Fall of the Goddess Constable, flipping it as she spoke. "Why only the front? The back is the essence. That wretched woman wrote the beginning all over the place. It's all thanks to me turning the tide later on that saved this book." Hearing this, Duan Yun's eyebrows raised. Goodness, the real culprit is found. No wonder this book is so split between the two parts. It was you, damn girl, who messed it up. Green Jade hadn't reacted yet when Duan Yun suddenly stretched out his hand and sealed her acupoint. "Villain, how dare you force your way?" Green Jade realized she had been immobilized, unable to move, and exclaimed in surprise. Now she stood there, her true chi revolving within, trying to break free from the acupoint, but she couldn't achieve it right away. Done for, she could only be at the mercy of this villain. It's all that wretched woman's fault for bad associations. Green Jade couldn't help but feel depressed. Speaking these words, she had already closed her eyes, resigning herself to her fate. The next instant, Duan Yun had lifted her up. Moments later, Green Jade reacted and said, "Why are you going to the kitchen? Are you thinking of doing something in the kitchen? Pervert." Ugh! In a flash, Green Jade's bright lips were stuffed full. He abruptly stuffed crispy rice aggressively into her mouth, making it difficult for her to breathe. "I once vowed to make you eat cakes. Today there are no cakes, you'll just have to make do." Speaking, Duan Yun increased his strength. Only when Green Jade was about to cry did Duan Yun stop. With a plop, Green Jade coughed violently, spewing out bits of crispy rice. After catching her breath, she said, "Shameless villain. Dare to release my acupoint and see how I'll deal with you." With a snap, Duan Yun flicked his finger and released her acupoint. Green Jade paused for a moment, thinking to herself, "Really released? Doesn't he want to do anything else?" For a moment, she felt like she had been insulted. "Villain, watch the sword." With a swish, the chain sword she had been wearing suddenly struck out. The metal pieces ingeniously combined into a whip-like motion. Midway, as the true chi within Green Jade circulated, the sharp metal pieces of the chain sword also spun, chilling and dazzling. A white light burst from Duan Yun's fingertips, colliding with the chain sword, sparking brilliant sparks. Afterward, Duan Yun spread his arms, and his jade sword true chi shot towards Green Jade as if costless. When he first encountered the red building fairy, he was almost violated. He then secretly swore that the next time his finger skills were mastered, he'd make sure the Red House madwoman returned loaded. He later killed quite a few Red House madwomen, not knowing if the original one was among them. However, the move he developed, Sword Chi Finger, truly became powerful. With Duan Yun's fingers trembling at high frequency, the Jade Sword Finger sword energy became even fiercer. But Green Jade was not easy to handle. As her wrists moved, the chain sword wrapped around her body like a snake, deflecting the sword chi. For a moment, sparks exploded like fireworks. This Yuju villa at night was inherently dark, but now the courtyard was significantly illuminated. The horses and Little Gray came to spectate, seeing the intense fight between the man and woman. Fearful of accidental harm, they quickly ran to the back courtyard to hide. Green Jade Finger. Suddenly, Green Jade's fingers glowed green, flicking on the chain sword. The next moment, taking advantage of a gap, the chain sword swept horizontally. If just a moment ago the chain sword was like a soft, winding whip, this instant it had transformed into a sword. A sword about 6 feet long, tough and icy cold. The metal pieces even lined up in one direction. Almost simultaneously, Duan Yun's golden sword also made its move. It had to be admitted, this martial sister was strong, forcing him to draw his sword. With no fancy maneuvers, Duan Yun also swept his sword horizontally, striking first despite releasing later. With a clang, the sound was muffled. The air around them twisted and deformed, rippling out in circular waves. Green Jade was shaken back 2 steps by this direct collision. Before she could stabilize, Duan Yun had already kicked off his boot and raised his foot. Whoa! This was a toe-strength kick, carrying a bizarre shock, causing Green Jade to suddenly clamp her legs and kneel on the ground. You've lost. Duan Yun nonchalantly put on his boots and walked towards the room, leaving only a suave silhouette for Green Jade, exuding the demeanor of a master. For a long while, Green Jade did not stand up. Chapter 335. Amazingly strong. Despicably shameless. This was Green Jade's evaluation of Duan Yun. Little did she know that he was actually holding back. Just now, Duan Yun was confident he could smash 3-toe strikes on her, and linking 3-toe strikes was not as easy as simply squeezing the legs. Though Duan Yun held back, he was not particularly courteous to this junior sister. Because she was ill, severely ill with the habit of writing nonsense books. Had it not been for the sake of Morong brothers, he would have definitely intensified his efforts tonight. Fairy Ziyu, oh Fairy Ziyu, if it weren't for the brothers' sake, I would definitely make you kneel. Ah, wait. It seems like she has already knelt. Half-kneeling still counts as kneeling. Afterward, Duan Yun began preparing for the treatment. He was magnanimous, having considered the small revenge settled. It was time to prepare for the act of medical practitioner's compassionate heart. His cellar had been lonely for quite a while, but he was in no rush to proceed. First, the woman was mentally ill, with symptoms slightly complex. Second, he had to wait for the Morong brothers to return. It was like going to the hospital for surgery requiring family members' signatures. He was afraid if he intensified and treated this junior sister too thoroughly, the Morong brothers wouldn't recognize her upon return. As if she had turned into a different sister. Or rather, 2 different sisters. It must be said, having 2 personalities in one woman was quite novel. Even quite thrilling. Mentally ill indeed. Duan Yun lay in bed thinking about it, unable to sleep. Looking at the half-finished The Fall of the Goddess Constable beside him, he began to see this woman in a new light. If the first half was written by Ziyu, then Ziyu was indeed quite talented. Unfortunately, it's a pity that Green Jade ruined a good book by forcibly feeding it crap. At this thought, he longed to go out and give that wench a couple of extra toe strikes. Outside was silent and dim. Unable to sleep, Duan Yun lit an oil lamp and took out the heart-to-heart spell. This was given to him by Yu Zhenjin, reputed to be able to squeeze the universe's myriad things. Yet he hadn't grasped its essence. This showed that it was an extremely tricky and difficult cultivation technique to master. Even for him, perhaps it was worth the effort to stay up all night. He flipped it open again. The text was still as indecipherable as chicken scratch, without a clue to its secrets. Same as before, Duan Yun skipped what he couldn't understand and tried to infer through the context. But this time he encountered trouble. If all the troublesome parts were skipped, he would essentially skip everything. Without context to connect, how can one connect the context? Extraordinary wisdom. Start turning, Duan Yun suddenly shouted. This was his habit during cultivation. A shout would make his mind feel clear and refreshed. However, this shout startled Green Jade. She had just exited the toilet, dwelling on her recent misfortunes, feeling both embarrassed and angry, and instinctively cursed Duan Yun in her mind. But just as she muttered curses, he suddenly shouted, and naturally, she was quite frightened. Damn it, one day, I will make you kneel and beg for mercy, and I won't forgive you even if you beg. Green Jade usually had a calm, dominant queen-like personality. Unfortunately, in the martial world, the fist is power. She couldn't defeat this guy. Hence, she couldn't be dominant. If it were Ziyu facing this situation, she would probably look weak, helpless, and pitiable. Just from that single toe strike by Duan Yun, Green Jade could withstand it, but Ziyu would likely have been kicked to tears. Bitch, to attract such a troublesome guy, allowing me to be humiliated. Duan Yun, after that shout, calmed down again. Thanks to his extraordinary wisdom now working rapidly. Throughout Xiongling sect, only that ancestor and Yu Zhenjin mastered this secret book written in chicken claw font. Why could they do it? Female? No, everyone in Xiongling sect is female. Yu Zhenjin, wait. Isn't Yu Zhenjin short-sighted? Suddenly, a thought flashed through Duan Yun's mind. If Yu Zhenjin was short-sighted, then she probably had to read the secret book very closely. Duan Yun quickly brought the secret book closer, but still couldn't comprehend the chicken claw-like text. Wait, I remember that nearsightedness often comes with astigmatism. Nearsightedness can be clarified by getting closer, but astigmatism makes things blurry and double-imaged. Try astigmatism then. How can one make their vision blurry and even produce double images? Duan Yun kept focusing on a character, and as he stared, a strange feeling arose. Yes, it was still the chicken claw-like strokes, but it seemed entirely different from before. And after staring for a long time, his eyes began to feel tired. Duan Yun didn't notice that, due to focusing on that character, his eyes had gradually taken on a squinted shape. But it was this shape that made the text blur and double images appeared. Suddenly, Duan Yun noticed the blurry character moved slightly. This movement was significant. Like being contagious, all the characters on the page started moving. From this view, every character's double image seemed like a person breathing, a person dancing. Duan Yun stood up and began to dance and breathe along. Maintaining his squinted eyes, he looked handsome and wise, flipping through the pages of the heart-to-heart spell. Gradually, his breathing carried true qi, entering a rhythmic flow. In this rhythm, his heart underwent a change. His heart seemed to gain consciousness, and if the connection usually refers to the telepathy between two people, now his heart became like one person, connecting with his whole body's organs, flesh, and meridians. His heart rate began to accelerate. Corresponding with that, it started to connect intuitively with every part of the body, especially the meridians through which the true qi flowed, creating a wonderful resonance. As this heart-to-heart connection gradually formed, Duan Yun felt an overwhelming impulse. He felt that his body was a weapon capable of clamping all things in the world. This impulse grew stronger and stronger until, ha 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 ha, young hero, I've become a snag. Green Jade was brushing her teeth with a willow branch dipped in fine salt when she suddenly heard such a crazy shout and jumped in fright. Suddenly, she felt someone behind her and couldn't help but get goosebumps. Holding the willow branch, she turned her head blankly, only to see Duan Yun unexpectedly standing behind her, staring at her obsessively. Green Jade shivered, murmuring, "What are you trying to do?" "Green Jade, I need to test my skills on you. I can hardly hold back anymore," Duan Yun said earnestly. At this, Green Jade broke out in a cold sweat, muttering, "I just ate the rice crusts you fed me, planning to brush my teeth and sleep. I haven't finished brushing yet. Hee." She forced a smile, feeling both forced and awkward. "No need, you can sleep after I test." As soon as Duan Yun finished speaking, Green Jade's beautiful peach blossom eyes saw his legs clamp towards her. Instinctively wanting to escape, she found it impossible. His clamping strike was not thunderous but contained endless variations, as if she couldn't dodge anywhere. "No, don't. Ah." The word, "ah," hadn't even left her mouth when her whole body stiffened. Her waist was clamped by Duan Yun's legs. In that moment, her entire body felt as if it was encased in ice. Her blood congealed, unable to move. Indeed, This handsome man's legs seemed to possess a magical power that instantly froze her. She felt immense panic, trying to rotate her true chi to break ice, but found she couldn't. Her body seemed no longer hers, as if it wouldn't feel this way even if many of her major acupoints were sealed. The moment Duan Yun clamped green jade, he too stopped moving. He felt himself like a clamp that could hold anything in the world. Clamps are inherently cold. The night was very quiet. Duan Yun and green jade remained in that posture, the moon breaking through the clouds and illuminating their figures, time seemingly frozen, presenting an eerie beauty. Little Gray and the horse watched this scene, too shocked to move. The next moment, Duan Yun got off green jade. Green jade shuddered, saying, "What did you just do to me? You're still saying you aren't changing." Ah! Her words abruptly stopped as Duan Yun clamped her again. Thus time seemed to freeze again. Little Gray and the horse, not understanding, called out twice and shook their heads, then walked away. Chapter 336. Not a single normal person in the entire village. Green Jade could hardly remember how many times she had been clamped. She only knew that the opponent was getting more and more adept, making it increasingly difficult for her to move. At first, the opponent used legs, then hands, and finally both. She just felt so tired. Simply wanting to brush her teeth and go to sleep felt like a moment of shattering and reassembling beauty. After being clamped, Duan Yun slept quite peacefully, feeling a sense of satisfaction. Originally planning to pull an all-nighter to comprehend the secret book, he managed to master it without doing so, and even found an excellent test subject to complete the trial. It was like handing in an exam early and scoring full marks. It was too good to feel wrong. Indeed, I am a 1 in 10,000 cultivation genius. Duan Yun slept very peacefully, unbeknownst to him. A pair of beautiful yet exhausted eyes watched him resentfully for a while. Little girl, getting up early, holding up trousers to go to the outhouse. In the morning, Duan Yun hummed a tune as he got up to visit the outhouse. After coming out of the outhouse, he found Green Jade watching him with a guarded face. "What did you do last night?" Green Jade covered her towering chest, saying defensively. Duan Yun, confused, said, "Ziyu, you've seen her. What exactly did you do? Why is my whole body sore?" Ziyu said. She was really different from the Green Jade of the night, carrying more of a young girl's guard and tension. If this is to be called a mental illness, then it's a full-blown case. Rarely encountering such a patient, Duan Yun took interest and said, "Nothing much, just forcefully fed her some things." Hearing this, Ziyu was shocked, saying, "Force-fed? What did you feed her?" "Wait, it wasn't that thing, was it? Do you have to be so perverted?" Looking at Ziyu's expression, Duan Yun was also shocked and even misunderstood. Or rather, women from shadow are prone to misunderstand. "It's not what you're thinking," Duan Yun tried to explain. Ziyu couldn't help but show a disgusted, nauseated expression, saying, "Besides that, what else did you do?" Duan Yun seriously said, "I also tested a technique on your body." Ziyu's eyes widened in disbelief, saying, "Not only did you force feed, but you also tested a technique on me? It wouldn't be some perverted demon technique, would it?" Ziyu quickly pulled up her sleeves, even wanting to tear open her clothes to check for any marks on her body. Young hero Duan Yun's expression darkened, saying, "What demon technique? Can't you speak properly? Be careful, I sue you for slander." Ziyu crossed her arms over her chest, saying, "Stop making excuses. You clearly are no good person. I clearly have someone I like, yet you still." As she spoke, her eyes reddened. Just as tears were about to fall, her body suddenly shook and she couldn't move. Even her tears seemed trapped within her eyes, not falling, because she was clamped by Duan Yun. Duan Yun clamped her waist with his legs. Ziyu stood frozen in place, while Little Gray and the horse, already used to it, continued grazing. "Was this what I tested last night? Is there anything indecent about this move?" Duan Yun said. Ziyu, clamped in place and unable to move, was somewhat scared. "Tell me, Young hero, have you misunderstood me? If you think you have misunderstood and feel guilty, blink your eyes. Duan Yun, while still clamping Ziyu, said. Ziyu blinked her beautiful big eyes. Duan Yun continued to hold her, not coming down, because at this moment, he had a new insight into his clamping skills. I am really too strong. As if he was improving every moment. Just then, the courtyard door squeaked open, revealing Feng Linger, Xin Ying, and Panda Debai. The moment they entered, their faces showed shock and they too froze in place. Feng Linger's voice trembled. He brought a wild woman home. Xiao Ying replied, broad daylight, in the yard, heaven as the roof and earth as the bed, and in that posture. With a thud, the basket in Panda Debai's hand fell to the ground, making a woof sound. Can't stand it. Can't stand it. The two women murmured. Catch them first. Suddenly Feng Linger spoke, and the two women, like a gust of wind, darted over. One catching the adulterer, and the other the mistress. But as they approached Duan Yun, they too froze in place. Feng Linger was on the left, her right hand clawing out. Xin Ying on the right, changing her left fist to palm, but both were clamped by Duan Yun. Duan Yun clamped Feng Linger's waist with his legs and Xin Ying's underarms with his hands, positioning himself horizontally between the two women, appearing from afar like an inverted Gong character. Ziyu, witnessing this, was astonished. What kind of incredible posture is this? Not just her, but Panda Debai, the already accustomed little gray, and the horse all came to watch this new posture. Duan Yun clamped the two women, locking their chi completely, calm and composed. His extraordinary wisdom continued to operate, pondering whether it was possible to clamp another person under these circumstances. Xun Ying's body was entwined with 9 death silkworm silk, unable to move but able to speak. Duan Yun, you're too much to treat us this way. Shadow, Duan Yun asked, don't you think my technique is very impressive? Shameless. Stop changing the subject. We came in and saw your scandal, and yet you ask us if the technique is good. I don't care. Right now I just want to beat her up, and you too. Xun Ying's body continued to flow with 9 death silkworm silk, like drifting clouds. But she still could not move. On the other side, Ziyu trembled, saying, Miss, I'm also a victim. He clamped me without a word. I couldn't even dodge. Chapter 337. She was telling the truth, but for some reason, whether it was her girlish tone or something else, it somehow gave off a somewhat teasable vibe. And this made Xin Ying and Feng Linger even more agitated. Duan Yun hurriedly explained, this new sister of the Morong brothers, also a new junior sister. I was only using her to test my skills. Shadow, don't slander people so recklessly. By this time, Feng Linger managed to squeeze out her voice, berating him. Who isn't that dog's hit brother's sister? Stop being so slippery with your words. Talking about it only made her angrier. I was clearly the first one here. Duan Yun retorted righteously. I'm not making excuses. I was genuinely testing my skills. Even if your mother was here, I'd still pinch. Feng Linger's face flushed with anger as she gasped. You even dare to think about pinching my mother. The next moment, Duan Yun exerted force, and with two s, both Feng Linger and Xin Ying couldn't manage to speak. If it weren't for the wind rustling that plum tree, one might have thought that everything was frozen in that instant. After a short while, Duan Yun spoke up. Have the two of you calmed down now? If you're calm, blink your eyes. The two pinned beauties blinked their eyes. Duan Yun loosened his hold. Scoundrel! Scoundrel! You deserve it! The moment the two women regained their freedom, they lashed out again, but Duan Yun sprang up and pinned them down again. Still 3 people connected together, still immobile, but now in slightly different positions. Upon seeing this scene, Fairy Ziyu clamped her mouth shut from shock, muttered psychopath, and walked straight to the side. Duan Yun didn't expect to be called a psychopath by a psychopath himself. Xin Ying and Feng Linger were somewhat overwhelmed by this, feeling as if they were caught in the act, but then being pinned down by their own man, only to be cursed by the mistress instead. Duan-yun couldn't help but explain, "You two really need to calm down. Her head isn't right. Do you remember Ning Tian that the Murong brothers encountered? That fairy Ziyu who writes the trash book, The Fall of the Goddess Constable? It's her." Fairy Ziyu pursed her lips, retorting, "What I write is not trash. All the mess was caused by Green Jade. She wrote that nonsense behind my back." Duan-yun said, "See? She's Fairy Ziyu now, but she might turn into Green Jade by evening." With that, Shining and Feng Linger's eyes blinked furiously. With this explanation, they were now sure she was insane. Having relations with an insane person didn't count as an affair. Who would fall for a madwoman or a fool? Wait a minute, there seems to be someone in the martial world who indeed enjoys this, just like some goddess catchers fall for demons over time. But then, Duan-yun had already let them go and looked at Fairy Ziyu with eyes full of concern for the mentally ill. It wasn't easy for them to blow up in the face of such compassionate heart. Discovering they were all staring at her, Fairy Ziyu said, "I'm not crazy. It's just that Green Jade loves to cause trouble." Shining, always kind-hearted and particularly sympathetic towards the ill, quickly said, "You're definitely not crazy. It's all Green Jade's fault." Fairy Ziyu, feeling understood, expressed joy and explained, "Actually, it's not all her fault, to be honest. She's actually my sister, we just don't get along. So she often slanders me." As they chatted, the three women ended up gathering together. Duan-yun, looking at this scene, couldn't help but let out a long sigh of relief. Aside from himself, there wasn't a single normal person in this residence. If he hadn't perfected the heart-to-heart spell, there might have been a fight today. Afterward, Shining went to the kitchen to start cooking. It was clear that they must be quite hungry from their outing. Panda Dabai had already scampered to the graveyard and brought back quite a few bamboo shoots to eat. When Duan-yun first brought Big White back, he was worried it wouldn't acclimate well, but the creature was only getting bullier. If not for its dopey way of lying on the ground munching bamboo, one might actually get the impression of a mighty hero. Whether it was out of care for the mentally ill or because Fairy Ziyu really had some kinship with Feng Linger, the three women suddenly sat together, chatting while they ate. During their meal, they actually didn't serve any food for Duan-yun. He had no choice but to serve himself. Duan-yun couldn't help but ask, "Where did you three go?" Feng Linger crossed her long legs and said, "We went to perform acts of chivalry, of course." "You also performed acts of chivalry?" Duan-yun asked, surprised. "What, we can't perform acts of chivalry? Now in Yushir Town, everyone calls us female heroes," Feng Linger declared with pride. "You three." Duan-yun couldn't help but glance at Big White, who was gobbling down his food. Seeing Duan-yun's expression, Big White let out a dissatisfied woof. "Of course, it's the three of us," Feng Linger continued with pride. "What on earth happened?" Duan-yun asked. "You know old Chun from the roast shop in town, right?"
Feng Linger inquiret.
"Obviously. The other day, we went to old Chen's as usual to buy some roast meat, only to find out that old Chun had gotten married. That's quite the news." Duan-yun couldn't help but comment. Old Chen always looked honest, and he was also quite elderly, so he could be described as an honest old bachelor. For someone like that to get married at his age was indeed a rarity. Seeing that there was a new owner's wife at the roast shop, business might even get better. We were quite happy for old Chen. After all, to find true love at his age. The woman old Chen found was broad and plump, seemingly the kind to lead an honest life. But 5 days ago, when we went to buy roast meat again, we found that old Chen had closed his shop. No matter what, old Chen's roast shop had been an old establishment. It had been there for so long, and old Chen had barely taken any days off, so we inquired and found out that old Chen had been deceived. That woman took all of old Chen's life savings and even claimed that old Chen was sick and didn't deserve a woman like her. We figured this woman must be a habitual scammer. Who would have thought that even an ugly, plump woman with a big round face could deceive someone into marriage? Duan-yun pondered. So it's because she was both fat and ugly that old Chen was deceived. That was a simple truth. Old Chen was an honest man. If the woman had been pretty, he would have known he was out of his league, would have suspected that she was after his money or had ulterior motives, and naturally, he wouldn't have been deceived. But what about an ugly woman? Old Chun would likely think he was a match, and with the woman applying some tricks, he fell for the scam. So you went to find that fat woman? Of course, Old Chun lost all his savings he accumulated over his lifetime, becoming listless as if waiting to die. If we didn't help him get his money back, would we have roast meat to eat in the future? We spent some silver to have the curtain shop investigate, and this investigation revealed that this fat woman was not simple. She turned out to be a member of a gang of bandits from Qingli Mountain. Initially, they robbed and killed, but later on, they changed their MO and started to deceive people. At this point, Feng Linger slammed the table, quite agitated. How could Shining and I endure this? So we, along with Big White, went straight to Qingli Mountain overnight, killed the whole gang of swindlers, and especially burned that fat woman alive by hanging her up. We got Old Chen's silver back, and Old Chun was so happy. He said he would no longer think about women. Look, the roast shop is open again. Hearing this, Duan Yun couldn't help but clap and cheer. Targeting swindling fatties and wiping out someone's whole family. If not you as female heroes, then who? At this point, Shen Ying couldn't help asking, what about the Murong brothers? Duan Yun said, they've gone to escort a lady to visit her family. Saying this, he recounted the story about the Murong brothers. Fairy Ziyu suddenly looked distressed. Is that really true? At this time, Feng Linger's expression turned subtle as she asked Duan Yun, do you think it's possible that this time it's also? Duan Yun shook his head. It doesn't seem like it. That woman said she's from the north. She and her mother have never left the Mo region since they were young. When I trembled on her, I didn't detect any signs of lying. Shen Ying couldn't help but tease. What are you doing trembling on others? That was for the Murong brothers' sake, afraid that they would be deceived like Old Chen, Duan Yun replied. At this moment, he noticed Feng Linger was silent with a strange expression. So he asked, is there a problem? Feng Linger nodded. I was also born in the north. Old man Murong had been to the north before and liked to brag in front of women that he was a wolf that had come to the north. Hearing this, Duan Yun and Shining couldn't help but gasp. Fairy Ziyu was suddenly baffled. She was having trouble following their conversation. What on earth are they talking about? Is there a normal person in this place? Even she, someone a bit abnormal, thinks they're abnormal. Chapter 338. I, Murong, am also a young hero with a widely renowned reputation. Ziyu didn't realize the implications hidden in Mr. Murong's words, a wolf that has come to the north, as it suggested that he might have quite a few descendants. Duan Yun felt that Mr. Murong was even more extraordinary because, if you counted the number of Murong's half-sisters on your fingers, 10 wouldn't be enough. If he kept having more sisters, even the stud master Duan Jingchun would probably have to admit defeat. What is this? A grandmaster of studs? Or a sovereign of studs? The key point is, before Murong's brothers perfected the sword technique and attracted these sisters, their father had always maintained the image of a devoted and faithful man. That he has so much romance without being caught is simply too outrageous. For a time, Duan Yun even suspected Mr. Murong of practicing some demon technique to have achieved such feats. Indeed, if the Murong brothers hadn't perfected their blade technique to draw in their blood-related sisters, this old man might have juggled more than a dozen relationships without capsizing. Suddenly, Duan Yun and his party began to speculate on how many lovely sisters Mr. Murong had left for the Murong brothers. The timid guessed 10, the bold ones aimed at dozens. This must be thanks to 12 layers of spring rain, which attracted these sisters like a magnet. Otherwise, given the chances of a coincidence, even one would hardly be enough. Seeing Ziyu looking at them with an eye reserved for lunatics, Feng Linger recalled, didn't you used to be with a girl named Qingqing? Ziyu immediately became serious, replying, that's what the Murong brothers said. They even told you that? Ziyu guarded herself with a wary gaze towards Feng Linger. Feng Linger made a disgusted expression and said, what do you mean told me? He insisted on telling us, and we had no choice but to listen to his endless lament. Did Qingqing tell you that she's actually one of Murong brothers' half-sisters?
Fänglinger inquiret.
Upon hearing this, Ziyu showed a stunned expression and said, "How could that be?" Fenglinger couldn't help laughing and said, "Let me tell you, I am also one of Murong brothers' half-sisters, and you probably are too." Ziyu stood there as if struck by lightning.
Impossible.
Absolutely impossible. Fenglinger continued, "Aren't you aware of the Murong brothers' practice with the demon blade? Qingqing is probably the most extreme. She became good friends with you and even wanted to set you up with the Murong brothers. Who knows what she's up to? Right, aren't you good at writing books? Maybe this plot is even more thrilling than the ones you write." Seeing Ziyu's shocked and panicked expression, Fenglinger grew more and more excited. Then suddenly, Ziyu pulled out a sheet of paper and a pen and began writing quickly. "You're right, if I put this kind of plot in a book, it would probably be quite thrilling. You're Fenglinger, right? I'll create a character for you." Just a moment ago, her face was full of nervousness and fear, but when it came to writing, she instantly calmed down, exuding thoughtful beauty. How to put it? It was kind of like witnessing old Demon Duan's extraordinary wisdom rotating as he practiced his martial arts. After some time, she regained her composure and said, "But I still don't believe what you said. He couldn't be my brother." Shanning offered her analysis. "Then why did he run away in such a panic after seeing you with Qingqing?" Ziyu answered, "Maybe he's afraid of Qingqing, not me." Fenglinger said, "Tell me, the first time you saw him, did you feel that he was a wonderful person with a kind of hazy beauty? It was like a layer of mist that made him very attractive. If you really like him, then can you tell how many moles are on his face?" At this, Ziyu began to sweat. She truly couldn't recall how many moles were on Murong brothers' face, or even remember their specific appearance. All she felt was that this person was very nice, very attractive to her. Even old Demon Duan was taken aback upon hearing this description. He had never heard Fenglinger describe the Murong brothers in such a way that they sounded like some mysterious evil deity whose true appearance was unfathomable. Cthulhu, maybe, could only be said. Green Blade Demon is worthy of the title Green Blade Demon, providing an abstract sensation even in imagery. Ziyu couldn't help but express her distress. "No, what should I do? If he really is my brother, I definitely can't handle it. It would be too painful. I'd even want to hack him. Yes, hack him, dismember him into pieces, and bury them in different places." As she spoke, complex emotions flickered in her eyes. Duan Yun even felt a glimpse of green jade in them. At that moment, Ziyu realized that both Fenglinger and Shining were looking toward Duan Yun, the only male present, a very handsome one who had probably fancied her for a while. Duan Yun flicked his sleeves, exuding the bearing of a doctor with a compassionate heart, and said, "Miss, you're unwell, and I happen to be a doctor." Ziyu asked dubiously, "You can treat me?" Duan Yun nodded. "Can you cure my suffering?" Duan Yun nodded again. You must have an ulterior motive. If you cure me, you'll definitely want me to promise myself to you, won't you?" Ziyu said, as if she saw through Duan Yun. Fenglinger interrupted her, saying, "You want to promise yourself to him? Please, get in line, thank you." "Get in line?" Ziyu asked, puzzled. "There are plenty who have been cured by him, and you're not the only one who wants to offer herself in return. I think you'd better wait till your next life. Work like a horse and toil like an ox in your next life. Don't mess around in this one," Fenglinger suggested. Duan Yun also felt that Ziyu was severely ill, not just mentally, but also nervously, and he couldn't help but sigh quietly. Chapter 339. It looks like Murong will need a serious treatment in the cellar once he comes back to sign the paperwork. At this time, Murong was still on the carriage, acting as the flower protector. This time, he was doing very well, getting along intimately with Miss Ningqing. He even dismissed the coachman to show off his skills, riding the horse single-handed while chatting with Ningqing. It must be said, once his confidence was restored, Murong's old riverside quality shone through. He bragged and entertained Ning Qing with tales from the martial world, making her laugh continuously. Just then, as if a gust of wind blew by, a steed burst out from the side. The black steed at a glance was riderless, as if it was sprinting alone, and in a blink it drew level with Morong's carriage. Suddenly, a child darted out from under the horse and snatched the green moon saber from Morong's saddle. Thief! Clearly, the horse had been trained, for it turned around and vanished into the nearby woods as soon as it succeeded. Ning Qing exclaimed urgently, "Your saber!" Morong, though slightly anxious, still controlled his horse and said, "Don't worry. Why aren't you chasing the thief?" Ning Qing asked anxiously. "That horse is well trained, and the perpetrator is a skilled veteran, probably a thief from the Tongyu realm with excellent escape tactics. I wouldn't be able to catch up with the carriage," Morong explained. "Then go chase on your horse alone," suggested Ning Qing. "No way, if I go alone, you'll be unprotected. It's very likely this is a ploy to lure the tiger away from the mountain," Morong analyzed. Ning Qing, overwhelmed with mixed emotions, could only clutch the corner of his clothes and gratefully said, "You are so good to me." Though she only grabbed the corner of his clothes, Morong suddenly felt as if his whole body was grasped. He declared joyfully and resolutely, "Ning, I will definitely ensure your safety." He had boasted days ago that as long as he and the saber existed, they would both survive, saying the green moon saber was one of the most important things in his life, as it represented his deep friendship with Yoon. Yet at this moment it was just a saber. Could a saber be more important than a beautiful girl? Though he had used this saber for so long, effortlessly performing endless hatred with it, he still felt some reluctance and emotion. The road ahead was bumpy, and Morong, holding the reins, slowed the horse down. Just then, the black steed returned. "Damn! It wants to come again?" Morong's muscles were all tensed. On the black horse, that child who had stolen the saber earlier revealed himself, turning out to be a dwarf covered in black hair. His hands were short and thick, seemingly uniform in length, yet conveyed a sense of exceptional agility. Upon seeing Morong, the dwarf quickly bowed and said, "Excuse me, are you the green, young hero Morong?" Morong responded, "Knowing it's me, you still dare to come back?" "I dare not. I'm just a blind fool who failed to recognize a hero. I've offended young hero, please forgive me." With that, the dwarf solemnly placed the green moon saber back onto the saddle. Seeing Morong still staring, the black dwarf gritted his teeth and put down a sack, saying, "I have deeply offended you. Please show me leniency, young hero." Afterwards, he apologized sincerely and walked away. Morong opened the sack and found several bars of gold. Seeing the green moon saber returned and even receiving a sack of gold left Morong rather baffled. It was almost as if he was dreaming. Seeing this, Ning Qing couldn't help but admire him. "I hadn't realized your reputation was so formidable." Not only did they return the saber, but also offered compensation. Morong couldn't help but stand tall, stating, "I have a bit of a reputation." Ning Qing excitedly said, "Did you foresee they would do this? That's why you were so composed just now?" Morong quickly replied, "Of course. Damn, I had no idea at all." He had never expected that his saber now had such a deterrence. If he wasn't mistaken, the one who stole the saber just now was Thief Ghost Hey 2, a well-known figure on the Green Forest Road. After the encounter, Thief Ghost Hey 2's horse had already stopped, with several horses quickly gathering behind it. "Lao Hey, what are you doing? You're letting such a fat sheep go and instead scattering wealth," a bald man complained. Hey 2 muttered, "Damn it. It's all because you guys didn't see clearly. You couldn't even recognize that it's the green moon saber." "What about the green moon saber? That saber is worth a lot of money." The bald man continued to complain. "Don't you know that this saber comes from the Su family in Jinan Prefecture?" Heitu said. "Although the Su family is powerful, they're far away. Why should I, Lei Laosan, be afraid of them?" The bald Lei Laosan said with an arrogant look. "Do you know that the saber was later obtained by the Thousand Faces immortal sect? And then old Demon Duan wiped them out and gave the saber to his good friend Green Blade Demon? He2 talked at length. At this moment, Lei Laosan finally showed a surprised expression, saying, "You mean that person just now was the Green Blade Demon? Who else could it be?" He2 said. Lei Laosan still wasn't convinced, saying, "Even though my wife is in someone else's bed, I know she still thinks about me. She even asked me for money a few days ago, and I think that's enough. She's always in someone else's bed. Why should I fear the Green Blade Demon?" He2, surprised, asked, "Brother, you didn't tell me about this good fortune? When is sister-in-law coming to visit me? Get lost. No matter what, it won't be your turn, you dark shorty. I just wanted to say you're afraid of the sword chi of the Green Blade Demon, but I am not." Lei Laosan explained. "What about old Demon Duan? Not to mention his petty-mindedness and fondness for killing entire families. Just turning you into a woman. If Green Blade Demon slashed your wife, and if she cares about you, she'd definitely ask you to sleep with someone else to save her life. Wouldn't that make the female you a cheap treat for our brothers?" As soon as these words fell, Lei Laosan noticed that He2 and the others were staring at him, which made him shiver, and he lamented, "This old demon really is not to be trifled with. Such thoughts are really terrifying." The four of them reached a consensus, acknowledging He2's approach. It can only be said that with old Demon Duan and the Green Blade Demon joining forces, even the Daluo Golden Immortal would have to shake their heads. At that moment, two entirely white carriages passed by. The carriages looked very mystical, and the women inside were also very celestial-looking, provided you only look at their faces. Due to their delicate and beautiful appearance, their faces looked like those of fairy maidens, but below that were bodies as enormous as mountains of flesh. Just the creases of fat on their bellies seemed capable of drowning someone. These were also two very large white carriages, each seating just one person. "Great meat Bodhisattva?"
He2 exclaimed.
Just as these two carriages left, a big man followed. The big man had a bronze complexion, was over 10 feet tall, and looked imposing and robust, like a copper tower. Around his neck, however, was a blue-robed Taoist. This Taoist was riding on this man just like a child would ride a big horse, yet he exuded a detached, ethereal aura. "Ba Mountain Taoist?" Lei Laosan exclaimed, surprised. Not long after this Taoist rode away on the big man, two horses appeared next. Two horses as bright red as blood, with two equally bright red-clothed men seated on them. From here, even their hair appeared red, as if merging with the horses beneath them, seeming almost like centaurs. And when they got close, you would see each lacked an eye, half a nose, resembling fierce ghosts. Red ghost. Quickly, these two horses also disappeared into the road ahead. In just the time it takes to drink a cup of tea, 3 groups of formidable experts had passed by. All 3 groups were extremely fearsome and difficult foes. These people's influences stretch from all over the world, yet they've all come here. 2. They seem to be heading in the direction of the Green Blade Demon, don't you think? Someone asked. He2's eyes lit up, saying, "Could it be that these people are all targeting the Green Blade Demon?" Lei Laosan excitedly said, "Doesn't that mean there will be a good show to watch? What are we waiting for? Let's hurry. Chin, quickly go get my sunflower seeds and walnuts." Suddenly, all 4 men's eyes gleamed with a bloodthirsty excitement. There's going to be a spectacle to see indeed. Chapter 340. Heroic spirit touches the heart, old demon in peril? The Murong brothers and Ning Qing were staying at a guest house with 2 trees in the courtyard. One was a poplar, the other one as well. At this time of the year, the leaves on the trees were almost completely fallen. Only a few withered leaves remained on the tree on the left, like the last bit of stubborn hair on a middle-aged man's thinning head. The Murong brothers and Ning Qing were dining on the first floor of the guest house. They sat by the window facing the poplar tree. The guest house business was mediocre. With just 3 or 4 tables of diners, it seemed somewhat deserted. Just then, a burst of rapid hoofbeats rose, kicking up a trail of dust outside the door. The horse arrived fast and stopped just as quickly, clearly well-trained. Soon after, new customers appeared at the guest house. They were two men, both dressed in red with red hair and red beards, looking as terrifying as the red-haired ghosts depicted in paintings. Ordinary people encountering such individuals would probably have fled already, like the couple at the front door who had put down their chopsticks and taken their child wrapped in swaddling to go upstairs, not daring to stay any longer. However, the remaining 3 tables of people, including the Murong brothers and Ning Qing's table, seemed to have a habit of being curious about the rare and extraordinary. Not only did they not leave, but they were even subtly sizing up the 2 red-haired individuals. Ning Qing couldn't help but say, "These 2 are very strange." The Murong brothers nodded and said, "The red ghosts from the Shangxi Qi sect practice the red ghost skill, which turns their hair and even their eyes red. It's said that the female red ghosts inside are as ruthless as Rashomon but lure countless eager souls to their deaths with their striking red allure." Facing Ning Qing, the Murong brothers continued to boast with the pride of an old Riverside veteran. Ning Qing looked at the red ghost, noticing that the eyes of the one on the left had a distinctly red tint, and couldn't help but giggle. "You sure know a lot." Hearing the praise from a beautiful woman, the Murong brothers felt their bones go soft with delight. The 2 red ghosts, without uttering another word, just ordered a dish of peanuts upon entering the guest house, and began drinking from the liquor they brought with them. According to the guest house rules, bringing their own liquor and ordering so little should not have been allowed. But the server, fearing he might be raped and killed, turned a blind eye. In such a cruel world, to be able to work as a server in a guest house and survive 3 years certainly requires perceptiveness. The 2 red ghosts had just sipped their drink when a set of heavy footsteps approached the entrance of the guest house. It sounded as if someone was carrying a heavy load. Very soon, the Murong brothers and Ning Qing were drawn to the person who entered. It could only be said that the newcomer was a heavyweight himself, taller than the door, his body so yellow it appeared to be painted like a stone pagoda. What was even more striking was the figure of a Taoist sitting on his shoulders. The Taoist seemed very thin, but when he alighted from the giant's back, the entire ground trembled slightly, giving a very profound impression. Clearly, this sight was even more captivating than the previous 2 red ghosts. The red-eyed red ghost, while eating peanuts and drinking, had become visibly more solemn. "This Taoist is also very odd," Ning Qing said, curious as a child. "There's an old saying, of the Taoists descending from Ba Mountain, 9 out of 10 are strange." The Murong brothers explained. "Is this Taoist from Ba Mountain?" Ning Qing asked, puzzled. "On Ba Mountain, there is a yellow stone cave, where the Taoists often eat elixirs made from yellow stones, turning their bodies even heavier than the rocks. When they travel, they are often carried by the yellow-skinned warriors." The Murong brothers continued to display their old Riverside charm, explaining to Ning Qing. Ning Qing quietly asked, "Are they formidable?" "Very formidable. Each one is a first-class expert. Especially the Ba Mountain Taoists. Taoists are already not to be trifled with in the martial world, and they are some of the most feared," replied the Murong brothers. "Wouldn't they be angry if we discussed them like this?" Ning Qing said, nervous. "Don't be nervous. Luckily, I am also an expert," the Murong brothers said with a sense of manly bravery. "You're truly amazing. I definitely chose the right person," Ning Qing praised sweetly. The Murong brothers grew even more confident. What can be done, the green saber young hero Murong is just that strong. At this moment, the sound of horse hooves was heard outside the door again. Before the person arrived, a red carpet was laid and petals scattered, as if a fairy from the heavens was about to descend. Immediately after, a quotidian giantess like a mountain of flesh walked in, overshadowing the light at the doorway. The giantess sported a small head atop a huge body, with the squeezing of her flesh against the door frame producing a noise. Actually, her head was of a normal size, but when placed atop such a body, it looked no bigger than a mung bean. And you know what? The head was rather pretty. The first, fairy, struggled to squeeze in, followed by another who had even more trouble getting through. After the second fairy came in, her gelatinous hands rolled up the red carpet on the ground, fashioning it into a red waistband. despite looking more exaggerated than a pig in her corpulence. Her movements exuded an air of agility. Even Ning Qing was astonished. After these two fairies came in, they glanced at the Taoist and sat down at a table on their own. Once they sat down, the bench was nearly swallowed up by their flesh and almost disappeared from sight. "Who are these people?" Ning Qing exclaimed in surprise. With so many strange people suddenly appearing at the guest house, it truly seemed miraculous. At this point, even the Murong brothers' expression had become a bit more solemn, and he responded, "The meat venerable from Qingni Temple."
Meat venerable, ning king murmuret.
They believe in achieving divinity through the flesh, worshipping not the legendary Bodhisattva, but the master of Qingni Temple, the meat venerable. It is said that the meat venerable has lived for 212 years. In the past, there was a hero named Li Feixia. His flying knife was unmatched, known as never misses a shot, and he was considered an extraordinary hero in the martial world.